will call to order the Rolesville Board Commissioners Business Meeting, February 3rd, 2026. I want to thank everybody's in attendance. It looks like we got a good crowd of people here tonight, so appreciate you guys coming out on this somewhat messy night, but appreciate everybody was able to get out safely to be at the meeting. As always, we're going to start the meeting with an invocation pledge. So I will ask Reverend Tony Davis from the Livingstone's Family Church to come up and lead us in invocation, and I will ask everybody to stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Would you join me in prayer, please? Father, we just come before you tonight, and we ask for your wisdom and guidance to guide all the decisions and conversation. We pray that your will be done. Lord, thank you for each man and woman that is here given of their time to better the city that you've blessed us to live in. We pray for your peace and guidance over us tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for coming out, Ms. Davis, and leading us in prayer. Appreciate it. And for information, his church, Livingstone's Family Church, is on South Main Street. If you'd like to visit that, welcome, and thank you for coming out tonight. The first item I got on the agenda is a proclamation. This is Black History Month, and I have a proclamation I want to read for this occasion. Proclamation of Town of Rolesville Black History Month. Whereas Black History Month is formally adopted in 1976 to honor, recognize, and affirm the importance of Black history throughout American experience. And whereas the history of the people of African heritage spans tens of thousands of years, including some of the most advanced, innovative, and influential societies in human history. And whereas African Americans have played a significant enduring role in the history of the United States, from the early days of the nation's pioneers to the present-day leaders in fields such as aerospace, finance, government, education, science, and international trade. Whereas during Black History Month, all Americans encouraged to reflect upon the rich history, culture, and teachings of Black Americans, and to recognize the progress, the achievements, the beauty, and the contributions they have made to society. Now, therefore, to be proclaimed that the Town of Rolesville Board of Commissioners hereby designates the month of February 26th as Black History Month throughout Rolesville, and encourages all citizens to celebrate the collective integrity, creative cultures, traditions, and achievements of African Americans, and to participate in community events honoring these lasting contributions. And this is adopted on the third day of February 2026. So thank you for allowing me to read that. And as a board, any comments anybody have on that proclamation?
Yes, Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great opportunity for us as a community to continue to push for our ability to unify, and this is a great month to have conversation about what's important to our community, and that is diversity. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the community.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. Anybody else?
Yes, sir. I just want to add to what my fellow commissioner said, some history, in case some did not know, that just outside of Rolesville is a historically Black community of Jonesville, where families established homes, businesses, and a strong support network during the Jim Crow era. Shortly after the Civil War, New Bethel Baptist Church was founded and has served as a spiritual and social heartbeat of Black residents in the Little River and Rolesville area for more than 158 years.
Thank you. That's an important point. Jonesville has been out there a long, long time. It's a big, nice community, too. Anybody else? Any other comments? All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate the opportunity to do that. Now, to consideration of the agenda. As you guys have the agenda in front of you, I think is one change requested by the board, which is legislative hearing D. So, and I think the request from the staff is to move that to March the 3rd board meeting. So I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the agenda with the removal of 10 Delta and move to our next executive meeting of March You said March what, sir?
3rd.
March 3rd.
Okay. All right, got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion second. Any other discussion? Not hearing it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes sound like ayes do have it. Motion approved. Thank you very much. The next item is consideration of the consent agenda. There's a few items on that. Resolution regarding the financial policy is on there. We kind of studied that and went over that in our financial meeting. Resolution regarding the purchasing policy update. The FY 25-26 budget amendment, capital project amendment, ordinance amendment. An amendment to the 2026 Board of Commissioners calendar. Approval minutes for January 6th and January 13th and January 20th, 2026. Thanks everybody for coming out. We will have this public hearing on the, what did we say, March?
March 3rd.
March 3rd.
I know, but we all came here.
I know.
We have half the people here. Why did you decide to do this
We kind of,
right now?
we apologize for that.
But why did you?
We would be here all night.
Well, that's kind of why do you think that is?
Well, it's our lives. By the people. That's the job, right?
Thank you.
For the people, by the people. This is how you treat us? Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, this is great.
Find a better job, but do it better. This is our lives, not yours.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. All right, so I got a motion, I need a motion for approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
All right, got a motion approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any other discussion?
No, sir.
Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds like the ayes have it. Ayes do have it. Motion approved. Thank you. Appreciate that. Now it's an opportunity for the public to be heard. If anybody in the public signed up, got a sheet up there for public to be heard. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I got George Garcia. You want to come up and make some comments, George? Welcome.
I'm George Garcia, 524 Averett Road. I see that there's been some staking done north of our property for an extension of Jones Dairy going all the way to 401, 4-lane. And then I hear from Campo that you're going to be having a 4-lane enhancement, 4-lane for Averett Road. And I see all those new applications for new developments. So I guess they're a new entry into the Rolesville 500. There's enough cars right now floating all around here, and I guess all everybody here is concerned about is getting that cash money, that tax money. There's people that just left here were pretty upset. There's going to be some changes around here. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Appreciate you coming out. Anybody else want to speak tonight? You're welcome to speak. All right. Thank you. Town Board Liaison reports. Anybody? We'll start down there with Michael Paul. Anything you want to report from the senior citizen side?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good night. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
So, since joining the board, one of my priorities has been establishing a dedicated senior center for our town. Tonight, I'm proud to share that the vision is becoming a reality. The town of Rolesville is officially committed to creating a senior center, and the community center next door will serve as its home. Beginning this spring, the community center will be dedicated to senior programming and events Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. As part of this initiative, the Senior Network will also host a number of its 2026 events at the senior center. Our Parks and Recreation Director, June Green, is actively expanding programming for our senior community. A full calendar is currently being developed and will be shared soon. In addition, a survey will be sent out later this week to gather input from our residents on the type of events and programs they'd like to see. We ask that responses be returned by February 25th. Our goal is to offer a full schedule of engaging activities that entertain, educate, and strengthen our community. Your participation and feedback are essential to making this effort a success, and we hope you will share your ideas and support. We look forward to opening the Senior Center this spring. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. How about Commissioner Austin? Anything from
Yes, sir.
veterans?
Yes, sir. On January 23rd, right here at our town hall, we had the distinct honor of hosting a flag folding ceremony for fallen Marine Corporal Swiger, conducted by the United States Marine Corps from Quantico. This solemn tradition reflects our nation's deep gratitude and respect of Corporal Swiger's service and sacrifice, and it ensures his legacy of honor and devotion to duty is preserved and formally passed on to his daughter with dignity. The Joel Fund. I'd like to share an opportunity for all our veterans and your families. The Joel Fund is hosting Deploy Operation Art, a creative program designed to bring together military-affiliated individuals through art and connections. Sessions will be held on February 13th from 1900 hours to 2030 at the Wake County Veteran Service Office, located at 420 South Wilmington Street. And on 24 February at 1600 to 1800 at the National Guard Armory, where participants will engage in weaving, watercolor, mixed media, and other creative activities. And then they will be hosting, again, the Joel Fund. The Greater Triangle Veterans, Military, and Family Alliance seek to strengthen the local veteran and military community and improve resources by identifying gaps and opportunities and barriers in services. This meeting will be on next Tuesday, February 10th, from 13 to 1400 hours at their Wake Forest location and on Zoom. The American Legion Post 1. I'd like to invite everyone to join American Legion Post 1 on 8 February at 1500 hours for an afternoon of fun and excitement as we gather to watch the Super Bowl together. This event will be held at 1120 Sawmill Road in Raleigh. And it's a great opportunity to connect and enjoy the game. Pride Boxing and Fitness. Boxing coach, CJ Jones has opened a new location for Pride Boxing and Fitness at 1311 Fifth Avenue in Garner. Classes are held on Wednesdays at 1400 and Saturdays at 1200. And participants are encouraged to arrive on time and to make the most of their training. And last, sir, is the Board of Adjustments, convened for its first meeting in nearly 18 months. During this meeting, the board conducted an election of officers, including the nomination and election of a chair and a vice chair, received staff introductions, and participated in board training conducted by Dave, with an overview of hearing procedures. Melissa Elliott is chair still, and Jerry Wuchik is vice chair. And members are Mark Kaminsky, Tracy Goss, and Daniel Fox. To maintain continuity, ensure procedural consistency, and uphold due process standards, the board tends to meet monthly. The Board of Adjustment operates under a high level of scrutiny than other advisory boards due to the quasi-judicial rule. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Commissioner. Okay, Commissioner Sneed, anything from Parks and Rec?
I do. We had the first Parks and Rec meeting that I was able to attend as the new liaison was on January 28th, and they also voted in a new chair and vice chair. So that was exciting. Actually, it was interesting to me because they do that every year. The vice chair rolls up to the chair and they vote in a new vice chair every year. So that was interesting. June Green, the Parks and Rec director, he gave a report and stated that the baseball and soccer signups are open and some teams are already full. Softball that has a softball team, I didn't get the name of it, that has played outside of Rolesville for years is finally coming back to play in Rolesville. And he said that our basketball, I guess, tournaments will be pushed back a couple of weeks because school has been closed because of the snow. He reported that they gave away 225 non-perishable meals, which was exciting. They have a trip scheduled to go to Mebane with the seniors to Tangier Mall. And they are finalizing a $400,000 HUD grant to revitalize Main Street Park with security cameras, internet, and playground equipment. The farm design, he said, is to be selected this month, I do believe. And there is a meeting this month with the Wake County Tourism regarding a grant. So that's also exciting. He said that 4 of the staff went to a conference in Charleston, which was good because he said they each learned a whole lot and made some really great connections there to help with programs that they're putting together and things that we might like to see in the future. He informed us that Eddie has been certified as a playground inspector. I guess he was that before, but he's being recertified now. So that's exciting. And the upcoming tree board webpage, he said that they are making it available so people can submit landmark trees and different things on that site so the public can have an input there. So there's a lot going on. There's also an Arbor Day in April event that is being planned. So that's just a little bit of what we did at the Parks and Rec.
Good. That's a good report. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. Commissioner Long, anything from Planning Board?
Good morning, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Board. There is not a new update as we did not have a meeting. It was canceled on January the 26th, but I do have just some quick updates from planning in general. The Planning Board now has and is using, this is for the development community, is GovWell is now a software that we have that was effective September 15th of 2025. The software will help accelerate, track, and streamline development review services. What does this mean for the development application and submittal process? For the first month, the submittal dates stay the same. Unless the first falls on the weekend, then the submission deadline moves to the first Monday. There will be embedded links for all developers. Please no more using or emailing planning@rolesvillenc.gov. Projects can now be submitted online using our new GovWell application site. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it, Commissioner Long. And lastly, Jen Burnett, anything from Public Safety?
I have nothing at the moment to report. We haven't met yet. When is the first quarterly meeting? Have you guys scheduled that yet, or have you not had an opportunity? Okay. So just with the transition of a new fire chief into the House, so I personally have nothing else to report.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Next item is communication from staff, and understand that, Eric, you're going to briefly speak on the departments. There's the memos and presentations in our agenda package, so we're not going to have the Dave or Jason to speak unless they want to.
Yeah, that's correct. So there won't be any presentations tonight. In lieu of presentations, what the department, what our new fire chief and a police chief did, they put together their presentations and attached a memo that gives context to the presentation, and that is within the agenda packet for you all to read and for the community to read for updates. They don't have any major updates, just routine updates and some statistics for you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate that. And if you got any questions from the information in your package, just reach out to one of the chiefs if you need to. So thanks a lot for that. Okay. We do have a hearing. We have a legislative hearing coming up. Legislative hearing REZ 2503, rezone and map amendment for 625 Avent Road. And I think Mike is coming up for that. I will turn it over to you, Michael. And I'm going to open the public hearing, so I'll just take your staff report as part of the public hearing.
Very well, thank you, sir. This is rezoning 25-03 for a property address at 625 Avent Road. Some of the core specifics here: it is a 12.2 acre portion of what is an approximately 16-acre tract. That 16-acre tract is what is addressed at 625 Avent today. The current zoning is residential and planned unit development. That is an old district that only exists under the former Unified Development Ordinance of the town, the ordinance that the town had prior to the adoption of the Land Development Ordinance back in 2021. It is also part of a very large old rezoning called Averett Farms, known as MA 07-07, and the history of this project zoning is inextricably linked to its potential future, as we'll get into. So the proposed zoning here is to a residential high conditional zoning district, RHCZ, and the proposed use of the concept is a single-family attached housing. This image here on the right-hand side is a very old image from that Averett Farms rezoning. In the red circle there is the approximate location of the current property that we're talking about this evening, approximately 12 acres. The blue area there and this blue area here, these were the two identified as primarily commercial uses as supportive to all of the residential uses in this large project here. Of course, for proximity, this is Jones Dairy Road right here, veering off. Averett Road is here on the right of all of this, and then Wade Avenue and Highway 98 is at the north. So you can see this vast area has developed over the last 15 years into multiple individual subdivisions, not adhering to that original vision from back in the 2007 era. I'll turn this over to the applicant now to do presentation, and then I can come back with some policy analysis and the motions and so forth.
Mr. Mayor, Board, I'm Ken Edwards. Address is 900 Ridgefield Road, Suite 150, Raleigh, NC 27609, member of the Wake County Bar Association. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicants who are requesting a rezoning of property located at 625 Averett Road to change the zoning from residential and planned unit development to residential high conditional zoning district. Tonight I have along with me both David Peoples and Steve Macko, who are representatives of the applicant, and they'll be glad to take additional questions following my presentation. At the conclusion of our presentation, we're going to ask your support for two motions. Motion number one, we're going to ask you to find that the rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Motion number two, we're going to ask that you approve a statement of consistency that approving mixed residential land use category. This fits within that category. We are in compliance with the community transportation plan as well as the bike and greenway plan. As to the first motion, the subject property will be identified as mixed residential community. That category is largely characterized as single family. The intent of that category is to provide a diverse residential opportunities, provide amenities, and also provide interconnectivity. As already determined by Planning Board and by staff, we believe the proposed rezoning meets those. In support of that we are consistent with the comprehensive plan, you will note that single family attached, in this case townhomes, is consistent with the mixed residential community district. We are also in compliance with the community transportation plan requirements for Averett and Jones Dairy Road, which will be necessarily addressed at the time of the preliminary subdivision plat approval. In addition, we are providing greenway and bike plans as shown in the concept plan, which is included in your materials. As to the second motion, much like the same requirements apply as mentioned, but I do want to call your attention to the fact that the applicant has self-imposed three conditions. Condition number one, they're going to develop in accordance with the concept plan, which is contained within your materials. Number two, they have agreed to limit the density to 5.9 units per acre. What would be allowable under the new zoning would be 9 units per acre, voluntarily accepting a 35% decrease in density. In addition to that, they're providing a separate 2-acre park, which would be administered by the town of Wake Forest and for the use of its residents. Now, we've already got the support of the planning board and staff. We're going to ask that you approve both these motions based upon that. I will make one further note that there was not required any type of transportation analysis because we are below the peak level number of trips as well as the daily. That information is also contained within your packet. If you have additional questions, I'll be glad to answer, and also have David and Steve available to answer additional questions of the board or the mayor.
I'll start. So I understand most of this land is in the watershed. So how do you propose to correct that? And by diverting water, where are you diverting it to?
I'm going to ask David to step up.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board, Mayor Pro Tem. So the watershed issue is primarily on the east side of the site. And actually, pardon me for 1 second, I'm just going to bring this up. You'll notice that the majority of our development is on the west side and the south side of the site. The east side of the site is challenging, as you mentioned, for watershed reasons. So our plan, much like Elizabeth Springs, is to grade out of the watershed. And so we plan to grade the site such that the water can be exit the site to the south and west, and primarily to the south.
And who's affected by that?
It shouldn't affect, sorry, go ahead.
You've got adjoining property owners, so are they adversely impacted by this diversion?
No, sir. So the requirements that are instituted per Wake County are, there's what's called a pre-measurement, so a before development measurement. The pre and post measurements define the detention system on the site. So post-development cannot exceed pre-development. What that means is that on the analysis points, water cannot exceed in quantity and flow more than it did prior to the site being developed. And so the detention is used to store the water and kind of modulate that water that comes off the site.
So is there an outflow from, it sounds like you have a holding pond. So is there outflow from that? And
Yes.
where does that go?
To the south. It hasn't been designed yet, in fairness, but the concept would be to the south. That's the low point for the site.
And just, I've seen this on other properties where it looks good on paper, in reality it's not. So how do you plan to rectify it if it doesn't meet the criteria and it does adversely impact your neighbors?
Sure. Well, I think the thought would be to comply with Wake County standard, which limit the flow off-site to equal or less than what exists today currently. So I'm having trouble understanding what adverse condition could be as a
That
result
more
of
water
that.
is running off than what you planned for based upon your calculations. And I've seen it,
Sure.
I know it happens. So, and it's a real problem from the adjoining property owners to get the developer to fix it when it complies with, you know, the metrics that are provided, when the actuality is far worse than what is planned.
Okay. So it's hard to respond to something that hasn't happened yet, in fairness.
Understood.
But conceptually, there's a process where the ponds get converted from temporary detention ponds to permanent ponds. That process is handled currently by Wake County. I know at some point, I think Rolesville may play a larger role in that. The HOA has a stormwater maintenance operation manual that is recorded with registered deeds that determines the care and maintenance and standards for the pond. And so to answer your question, if an issue was to happen with the pond 5 years down the road after it was installed, it would be on the HOA to respond to that. And I believe Wake County, if not Rolesville in the future, will do the inspections to, I believe it's yearly, could be wrong on that, to maintain compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. With that being said, yes, sir. With that being said, have any one of your staff conducted anyone with the NC Department of Environmental Quality about this issue? Because this been in the watershed to its point.
Yeah, I think
Huge.
we haven't gotten that far yet. I think conceptually, we wanted to make sure that we had a site plan that we believe, and our engineering firm, McKim & Creed, believes that could be compliant to the watershed provisions. At this point in the process, considering the construction drawings aren't done and all the engineering isn't done, it's really hard to begin those conversations with Wake County to figure out what it takes to grade out of the watershed. So I believe, personally, I would love if it was already done because it would take out a lot of the risk. But practically speaking, I think in preliminary plat and then CD review, that's when we're going to have those conversations.
Inside the flow of where that's going to go, looking at that, I'm saying that it could probably flow around southwest.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you even talked to some of the residents that will be affected by that?
Well, we have held neighborhood meetings, and I believe Mr. Davis and Ms. Bledsoe attended, and we had those discussions. And I think a lot of the comments around managing the water really have to do with the standards that Wake County has for pre and post management.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's currently zoned RPUD, which includes a commercial component.
Yes, ma'am.
So why do you think that that land should not have that commercial component when Rolesville desperately needs commercial there?
Actually, I completely agree with you. Unfortunately, the Little River watershed explicitly prevents commercial development. So it is the one thing that is not allowed.
Right.
You can do certain, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So there are certain things that are allowed, and unfortunately, commercial is not one of them.
Right. But you're going to rezone the regrade
Yes, ma'am.
out of the Little River watershed. So then at that point, you could build commercial there.
I think, and it's a great question, and in fact, we did look and go down that path because, quite frankly, it would have avoided a longer process with rezoning. Unfortunately, given the limited frontage on Jones Dairy, I don't recall the exact footage, but it's not a whole lot. There's tree line to the south, and given the proximity of what we believe is reasonable to grade out of the watershed, you would essentially have a commercial unit that was so tucked back in a corner almost without any allowable parking. And so with commercial, you have to have a lot of parking as well, which is impervious surface. And so all of that water management has to go somewhere. And practically, it just doesn't work on the site.
It's concerning because since 2007, I do believe, it was zoned commercial.
Yes, ma'am.
And since we need it so much, that's a very big concern that I have there.
I completely agree with you, for the record. So it's problematic with the watershed. So
I'm just curious, are you going to do any dynamite blasting with granite being such a prevalent thing off of Everett?
I hope not, Mr. Commissioner. It is prevalent on the site. We haven't explored the site completely to know what's there, but given the fact that we will be grading up, there's a lot lower likelihood of needing to blast or encountering rock.
Well, let's go by what we know about the area, right? So with the blasting, how will that impact the other parts of grading out in the watershed itself? It seems like when you blast, you're disrupting. So I want to make sure that if we were going to have to blast, how's it going to impact the watershed as well as the other citizens on the other side? I mean, I want to be they need to know that as well.
Sure. Well, and I'm not an expert on blasting, but from our past experience with blasting, normally they do a site visit. They offer pre-blast inspections to all the neighboring residents, and they do pre and post monitoring of blast activities. Specifically with the watershed, I don't know of any adverse impact to blasting, and from what we've seen so far, I don't expect to encounter any rock. And we're bringing in, if the site concept works, we bring in material substantially high, and I don't believe we're going to encounter any.
Thank you.
So no feasibility study's been done on that land to see if there's rock under there? Or is that not needed at this point in the process?
I don't think it's needed at this point in the process, and primarily because we're bringing in fill dirt and raising the site. And from what we've seen over there, there is, undulating rock throughout all of Rolesville, of course. But again, we don't even have a utility plan or design. And so to go and drill, we would normally like to know the depth of surfaces to drill to before we assess whether there's rock or not.
So I understand you haven't done a traffic study because according to your numbers, you're under the threshold, which is 500, and you're at 498. We've had this issue before. The metrics used are not the best, and they're all you have, and I get that.
Sure.
But 72 units is what you're claiming, and yet you've got, what, 32 peak hour trips in the morning and 39 in the evening. One is more than what we have or can handle today. I mean, our roads cannot handle any additional traffic. They were probably built for 8,000 people, and we're at 12 or 13,000 plus. We've got 3,000 homes already approved. We got 1,800 more townhomes already approved. It's going to double our population, and we can't improve our roads. So why should we change our zoning to bring in additional traffic to further congest our already congested roads?
Okay, great question. I think the way I view the standards in the ordinance is there's a peak trip threshold and there's a total trips per day threshold. And I think exceeding that threshold trips the need for a traffic impact analysis. We have proposed 72, I believe it is, attached units. And when we get through engineering, we'd be lucky to, I don't know, get 80 or 90% of that most probably. It's a concept design, and we're up against a lot of challenges, quite frankly. So I don't expect us to be anywhere near those, but during this process, it's best to kind of plan for the best case scenario. Peak trips, Mr. Commissioner, as I understand it, if we're at 30 odd peak trips, that's less than one car. That's one car every minute and a half or minute and a quarter. And so when I look at it, because you asked me kind of what we propose and how we look at it, I have been around this part of Rolesville for quite a long time, and I don't consider it to be a danger. And that's the way we view the project, and I would just ask for your consideration along with those ordinances are in place.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a danger. It just slows up. I mean, it's a parking lot. My office is on Main Street. It's across the street.
Yeah.
I see it every morning and every afternoon. And all we're doing, if we approve this, is we're adding to an already very congested downtown. And that's why I'm asking, why would we do that?
Well, I think, in planning for the future, I know that there's good right-of-way dedication on Averett, and I don't know I can't recall what the exact plans for future expansion are there, but a lot of development going on Wade Avenue, and actually there's a ton of development going on 98 Wade Avenue. And I see Averett as going to be kind of one of the main thoroughfares to get downtown. So I completely agree with what you're saying, but I don't know if this project is substantial enough to really make a large difference.
It just adds to a problem that exists today. That's the point.
Yeah. Fair
Thank
point.
you.
And also, could you explain to me, so if we're saying 70 townhomes, let's make an assumption of 1.5 cars per townhome, which comes out to about 105 cars within the plan. What is the math, or what is the formula to come up with only 32 peak trips in the morning and 39 at night? I mean, that's
I actually
like a third.
I don't have the exact formula. It would be great if we did, actually. We hired a firm, DRMP, Ramey Kemp specifically. They used to be Ramey Kemp, and they have a sanctioned program that's consistent across, and it's regulated. I forgot the regulation. I apologize, but they have a formula, and townhomes get a certain score value, and single-family homes get a certain score value. And it's those score values that drive the daily trips and peak trip. So.
Okay, because it just, yes, I understand that there are these measurements and that's what we have to use to go by. But to Commissioner Paul's comment earlier, we have seen such flawed reality, basically once the projects are completed. And, it's basically on us as the commissioners and members of this town to try to, yes, encourage growth, but also do it intelligently and without adding to the gridlock that we're already experiencing. And I honestly, with these numbers, and again, I get it, it's a formula, but you know, you're 2 trips under having to do a traffic study, and the number of trips just doesn't seem reality, you know, like that it's set forth in reality. So, and I think that's, you know, traffic for peak times is very important because that's the rush hour. Leaving and going home is very difficult around here. So between that and the questions with the grading of the property, I do see some issues going forward with the plan, but thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
So I got a question about the park. With this being in the rear, is this open to the public as well? If so, where's the parking?
Town staff had asked in the planning review process for us to consider dedicating land for a pocket park. And so they asked for it specifically in the northwest corner. I don't believe all of those details, in fairness, have been figured out. I think we will have a trail along both the Jones Dairy and Averett frontage, and I don't believe any of the internal logistics have been worked out yet. We just know that we're happy to dedicate a couple acres for a park. So,
And to that point, you mentioned, maybe, I'm just clarifying, that it was being dedicated to Wake Forest.
Oh.
You mentioned Wake Forest, not Rolesville.
Did I?
Yes, sir.
I apologize.
I just want to make sure
No,
you
I
intended to
apologize.
be.
No, for
That's
sure.
fine.
It's for
That's fine.
it's for Rolesville. Sorry.
All right.
Other questions? Sir? No other questions? I just got one. It looks like you carved out property from the original piece of property.
Mhm.
So what happens to the pieces you carved out? You know, are they going to be, what happens to that?
Truthfully, we don't know yet. I think that's the most honest way to answer it. It's land that is in the watershed, and we don't have any plans for it. We've been speaking with the gentleman that lives right kind of next to it, if you will, or kind of encompassed by it, and there's some interest to expand his property. But as of now, there's no immediate plans.
You talking about that little square
It's
over
too,
here on,
yes.
I see
it's
that
too-
one over here on the left,
It-
and the other one is the park.
Well,
Or that's,
if you come down.
the park is up here in the,
Yeah, yeah. All this is part of the property.
that's what's been carved out.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I think that was the commercial piece that's been carved out.
And just trying to understand exactly like where the watershed lies. Is it the shaded area? That's the park designation, correct?
Oh, no, ma'am. It's the lower part of the screen, but that's actually the east part, right along Averett Road right there. And the primary reason for us kind of carving out was to try to make it more realistic to grade out of the watershed. So we're trying to keep the majority of the site that's subject to grading out of the watershed up towards the west side.
So the pieces you carved out will always be in the watershed once you do the regrading.
Yes, sir.
Unless they came in later and regraded it, right?
No, they
Wouldn't be able to.
they have to do it now.
Mm.
Any other questions? Did you guys have others that want to present any material?
No, Mr. Mayor, we did have just a few slides just to show for reference, but no new material.
Yeah, I think some of the things missing that we normally see is the Greenway Pass and stuff like that.
Mr. Mayor, it's actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's actually notated on there. It's kind of tough to read. but there's notes along Jones Dairy and along Averett that reference the bike path and the walking path and the Greenway Trail.
So it's on the perimeter.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're down here.
It's,
Yeah.
right here. If I may just add one more comment, and I think it's frustrating for us as applicants, and I'm probably frustrating for you as well. It's so early in the process of designing and engineering the site for construction drawings. Some of these items are going to change. I mean, obviously the plane consistency and everything will change, but a lot of the water detention questions, where is it going to exit? You know, the exact path with a scale that you can actually read, all that will come later in preliminary plat and construction drawings. So.
Any other questions?
No, there's no, so. May have to be here.
Yeah. And I don't think you did any stormwater design in the plans, right?
No, and that'll all come in the preliminary plat and CD process.
I guess, Dave, normally we see that. It's not required to see stormwater plans and stuff before you approve something?
At zoning, at the most, you see something like this, a triangle or a blue circle. The general idea as to where the applicant thinks they will be. Sometimes they don't even show that, but I understood that the triangle there is your stormwater device right now, or no?
Yes, that's the general area where we plan to locate it.
So that's about where it is. We have had other concept plans that haven't tried that, but we know that it's not going to be under where the townhomes are, so the options are sort of limited. There isn't much left for the stormwater at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's any.
So I assume that that's where it would be. The applicant does own the square that is at the southeastern corner, correct? That's carved out of this?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so potentially the stormwater could be there,
No,
but it's outside the zoning case, so you can't use it.
it can't be there actually, because the water has to exit away from the watershed.
And that is the watershed.
Yep, that's correct.
Fair point. That's okay.
So very limited.
Yeah,
It's
their
very
options are,
Yeah.
you can put the stormwater wherever you want, so long as it's right there.
As long as it goes right there.
That's a challenge.
I don't know, is the applicant committing to this road layout?
Within, I believe, Mr. Neal, within general kind of compliance at this point. Again, it hasn't been engineered, so that this is the concept. I believe there's probably some wiggle room throughout the CD process. But again, this is just a proposed concept.
So for the board's benefit, I don't believe that the staff would accept, under a general concept plan, moving the stormwater from where you see it now to the southwest corner of the site on Jones Dairy, for example. That would be a significant change from the concept plan you're seeing. But in theory, that would be away from the watershed.
That's correct.
So,
Limit the.
but they're already pledging to not put it there, essentially.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
I will now, who signed up for this? Let me see who. I hear from any of the, anybody want to speak favor or against this? We'll start with favor. Okay, got Betty Freeman. I think Molly Hurst was on that other one. Sandra Bledsoe and George Wren. Is he still here?
He's gone.
Yeah, okay. So we'll start with anybody who want to speak in favor. So anybody, any of these names want to speak in favor, step up. All right, Betty, come up. State your name and address, you would, Betty, for the record.
Betty Freeman, 524 Everett Road, which is the last house before, on the right before you turn left on Jones Dairy. I've lived in that house off and on for 75 years. So I know this property that you're speaking on well. And the watershed, that water on that land drains to the north. Absolutely to the north, to that low land in between that land and the church. And Rolesville, or the people who live on Everett Road, can't deal with another 75 houses on Everett Road. That means 150 cars potential, which is probably the reality, not their statement. 75 more 150 more cars means 150 cars, 300-400 trips a day, one way or the other. 450 trips or more. I mean, right now, it takes me 30 minutes at times to get out of my driveway. If you approve this subdivision, I can assure you one thing that I can predict in advance. Pretty soon, there's going to be an accident at the corner of Jones Dairy and Everett Road, because the people that come on Everett Road off of 98 Highway are not going 35 miles an hour, which is what they should be doing if they're just to the south of this property that they're fixing to develop, planning to develop, I should say. Most of the cars are still going 45 when they get to my house or further. And I'm predicting ahead of time, because it's going to happen sooner or later, and it's probably going to be sooner at the rate you're going now. Somebody's going to hit one of these mothers' vans that's hauling 4, 5, 6 kids in it, coming from the school on Jones Dairy. And they're going to broadside them, and some kids going to get killed. So plan some more land. Plan some more development. But that land, the watershed is definitely to the north, because there's a creek down there, a low area between there and the church that all the water goes into. And I've been on that property off and on for 75 years, and I've watched it.
Thank you, Betty. Appreciate that. Okay. Josh Hurst, I don't think is still here. Right. Molly Hurst. Sandra, you want to say something? State your name and address, you would, Sandra.
My name is Sandra Bledsoe, and my address is 609 Everett Road. Okay. We did come and meet with David and Steve before. And they basically was explaining how this development was going to go. I have a lot of concerns, a lot of concerns that some of you brought up, especially like the water and where it's going to be running, the way that they explained the pool that's going to catch it. What if it doesn't? And the development's already there, and they're finished, and they wash their hands, and they're gone. So how are my neighbors that live across the road from this development that water's going to be running down on, how are they supposed to deal with it? Because nobody's going to want to take responsibility for it now. They've got what they want, they're gone. There's a lot of granite there I found since I moved there in '83. We tried to plant trees and we hit granite and had to go somewhere else to dig a hole to plant a tree. The concern for traffic, oh my goodness. You talk about it takes you 30 minutes to get out on Main Street. Come down late in the afternoon and try to get out of my driveway. It's all I can do to get out of my driveway. You've got Jones Dairy people coming. You got Everett Road people coming from all directions. And the people that are coming down Jones Dairy Road, if they don't see anybody coming, they don't even stop. They just keep on going. I can stand at my kitchen sink, wash dishes, and watch people just run that stop sign constantly. So, yeah, there's going to be accidents there. all that traffic that's going to be piling in there from this housing development. You got 75 units or 72 units, and it's going to be 1 to 2 cars per unit. Look at the morning traffic and the afternoon traffic. If I have an appointment early in the morning, I have to plan to leave way ahead of time to get out. It's just unbelievable. The other thing, HOAs. If they have HOAs, how is that going to affect me? Because I'm like sitting right on the corner. How's that going to affect me? Right now, I have my chickens out there. Are they going to start fussing about hearing my roosters crow? You know, and I know that's a simple thing maybe to some, but to me, I'm there. This is my life. I heard him say that there was plenty of right-of-way on Jones Ferry and Everett Road. Well, the housing development down the road on Everett Road, there's 2 that they put in. They had to widen the roads, so they took part of my lot from the center line. Okay, but now the center line's been moved, so they're going to take more. That means I'm not going to have much of a front yard at all anymore. And with the traffic speeding like it is, I mean, anybody could just run into my house. We've had that to actually happen, that a car hit a house and killed me. They're on our corner. So.
Sandra, can you kind of wrap it? It's been 3 minutes. You kind of wrap it
I'm
up?
so sorry. But I wish you would take all these things into consideration. It's a lot. It's a lot out our way. Come out there some afternoon and just sit in my front yard and watch it.
Thank you, Sandra. Appreciate your comments. And then there's another George. Is there a George? Okay. George, you want to speak again? I can't read the last name. Can you read that? Yes. I can't read.
Is there another George?
Go ahead, George.
Name is George Garcia, 524 Everett Road. Several concerns were raised. One about water flow, sheet flow. That's a potential for impact around, and also traffic, the from tos, talking about the model that's used to calculate traffic flow. There's things that need to be taken care of. We have tried to protect flow of water in our property and set it up as a conservation easement forever. It's not going to be developed and is used as a buffer for all this sheet flow that's going to be happening from Chandler's Ridge and some of the other locations. Okay? So something needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Appreciate your comments. Thanks a lot. Come on up here. You didn't sign up. I'm going to allow you the chance to speak since you're there.
My name is John Hugh Davis, and I live at 1608 Jones Dairy Road. And we live right across the road from this. Also, we've got a acre and 3/4 on the same side of the road as this. And what these guys are going to end up doing, they all divide, and we don't really want to sell it. We just want to be left alone there. You know, live out my life, and my son and his wife and little daughter, you know. But they're going to throw all this water on it and devalue our land there. You know, I ditched that land out. I made those. It was just a swamp to start off with when I first moved there over 55 years ago, you know. And they're going to pour all this water over on us from 70 houses, and it's no permeable surfaces left around these houses by the time they put driveways, streets, and stuff. It's just going to be one little dab of grass probably for each one of them. And then they're gonna come along, throw, spray chemicals on these grasses and fertilizers, and this time of year, you're gonna get salt and stuff people put down for ice, run all this stuff down there on us. And I don't think the stream is gonna handle it. And I've got a little shop building outside of my house there, and it's gonna flood it. No doubt. I've seen it just about flooded before, even in it is before any of this stuff comes on here. And they're gonna flood us out right down there. And it's like to them, you know, they've already hauled the dirty and do the stuff and everything over there, change it. They're not giving us a chance, you know. We're just getting railroaded by them. And also, we're getting railroaded about the acre and 3/4, taking it out of commercial property that we have across the road that adjoins them. And because one of these days, maybe my son might want to, you know, sell to somebody to put a daycare or something like that right there, you know. And then they're taking it out of commercial properties. No good there, you know. So, but it's definitely an impact on us. And we don't know what they're gonna have to do when they pipe all the water, what kind of piping and stuff like that they're gonna do. But we got all the water now, with especially in the summer months, we have these freak thunderclouds. And, you know, if it's the rainy season before, they fill out the silt ponds, and then next thing you know, it's coming over the silt ponds, you know. And, but this is a definitely impact. They're gonna devalue our land, and they're gonna be gone, nothing but homeowners association to deal with, you know. So I appreciate any concern y'all can help us with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hugh. Appreciate that. Thanks. All right, anybody else? We got a few minutes. I want to speak.
Can I just say one more thing, or ask one more question?
You have to come up to the mic.
So with this rezoning, you made the remark that it would limit commercial building out that way. Is that, I don't really understand. So my property line joins up over to part of theirs, and they said there's about an acre there where a home could be built, but they don't know what they're going to put there. And I don't know what they're going to put there. So I asked them to put a privacy fence there to protect me. But, okay, so my property and Hewitt's property are joined. If I wanted to sell my property to someone that wanted to put in a commercial establishment, am I still going to be able to do that? Or by them rezoning, will I not be able to do that?
Thank you. We'll let somebody address that question for you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? If not, Michael, come back up. I think April brought up the question about the commercial. My understanding is once they do this regrading, and you don't allow commercial in the watershed, it won't be any commercial out there, right?
So the town's zoning completely controls whether there'll be commercial or non-commercial on any property in town. The board controls that. It's driven by zoning, number one.
Even in the watershed?
If a property is in the watershed, there are massive restrictions on use and intensity and impervious cover. And yes, most non-residential uses are prohibited. But the plan here by the developer is to regrade the property out of the watershed, so it's as high and dry as Main Street here from those restrictions. So one can forget about the watershed aspect if they regrade. Then it's just under the control of the town board's zoning choice. What is appropriate here? And the request is for residential high density to perform the townhouse project that's here. The historical zoning on the property, though, was a commercial component of a 300-acre master planned community.
Any questions for Mike while he's up? Any questions from the board?
No, sir.
No questions? All right. Mike, any closing comments before I close the public hearing?
And your presentation. I do have continuing slides to go through the typical things that the board's used to seeing, comprehensive plan slides, a little bit about their conditions of approval that they're proposing. Then I move to the motion. So I can do maybe 2 more minutes of some slides. So this slide here is just to highlight the 3 conditions which the applicant's attorney did go over. General compliance with this land plan that you see on the screen. The maximum residential density would not exceed 5.9 units per acre. And that yield on the 12 acres is roughly in that 70 unit count. But again, all of that would be ultimately dictated through the engineering and so forth. So that number could not go greater than what equates to a 5.9 density, or it could go less than that, depending on, again, physical constraints. And then parkland dedication of a minimum 2 acres. It's that green area on the screen in the drawing in the upper right-hand corner. To us, it's actually the northwest corner, since north is oriented to the right of the screen. Looking at the 2050 comprehensive plan, again, this is a big picture here. You see the project is in the lower circle there, where Jones Dairy splits off to the northwest, and then all the way to 98. So you can see this whole area is this mixed residential community. It's that orange color. And of course, the reality is that most of that land area has been developed as multiple single-family or townhome residential projects. Elizabeth Springs, Perry Farms, Meadows at Jones Dairy, Presley. So not much of this area is left. At 98, there's that project called Atticus Woods that'll be coming to the board, it sounds like on March 3rd, and that's under rezoning. That would kind of complete this massive corridor here for the majority of it. This property tonight is one of those few properties that are outliers and wasn't part of that, or sorry, was part of the Averitt Farms rezoning, but there's a few other outstanding properties that are not subject to that old history and currently aren't in town limits either. So mixed residential community is the future land use here, and then at the intersection of Jones Dairy and Averitt Road is this priority intersection buffer. Looking at the community transportation plan, both Averitt Road and Jones Dairy are identified as 110-foot right-of-way, 4-lane median divided roadways. If you look at what's been improved on Jones Dairy, that's a good example of what that looks like. That is that ultimate build out of the street. And again, Averitt Road and Jones Dairy Road are both prescribed to be that type of roadway in the future. Looking at the greenway and bicycle plans, the Averitt Road would require bicycle lanes within the travel paths and then side paths. And then Jones Dairy Road requires a side path be built. And again, a side path is a 10-foot, much wider sidewalk. It's still in the right of way, but it gets a 10-foot treatment. As was noted by the applicant, I believe, or in the discussion, a trip generation letter was prepared by the developer, and it just ran under the thresholds for triggering a traffic impact analysis, so 498 daily trips and 32 and 39 in the AM and PM peak hour, respectively. Looking at this consistency-wise, single-family ATAS or townhome use is a consistent type of land use here. The descriptor in that category does mention small townhomes. Given that the applicant is self-containing the density to 6 per acre, and again, the yield would be at the max about 70 on this property, staff finds that as a bit of an infill property in this large area, townhomes is a consistent land use choice. The CTP roadway thoroughfare requirements, as just noted, would be vetted at the time of preliminary subdivision plat. Those are requirements. Those will not be waivers. Those are not options. Same with greenway and bicycle plan requirements. Those will be implemented at preliminary subdivision and construction drawings. Those are not optional. Planning board reviewed this at both the October and the December meeting, and they did recommend approval of the rezoning at their December meeting. And again, staff's recommendation is this proposal for the density of residential single-family attached units is generally consistent with that mixed residential community land use category. And again, looking at the residential high density, the proposal is only asking for 2/3 of the maximum density that district would naturally allow. So it is a bit of a density concession by the applicant. in their request for the residential high, which is a massive change from the current zoning. So on the screen, we have the typical motions here: motion to approve or deny, and then if approval, a statement of consistency and reasonableness, or the third option is always the ability to continue the discussion. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions for Mike before we wrap up?
No, sir.
Any questions at all?
No, sir.
Board? I'm gonna close the public hearing then. Mike. And I will turn it over to the board for deliberations and consideration.
Okay, I heard a lot of concerns, especially with the grading, with stormwater. So, board, not sure where you guys are going, but I'm prepared to make a motion. If I move to deny rezoning request REZ 25-03-625 Avery Road based on concerns that the board has with stormwater as well as the grading with the potential of commercial.
Okay. Got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion, and a second. Any further discussion, board?
Just want to add that on top of the stormwater issues, we have incredible traffic problems that cause us reason to be very concerned about adding, as Commissioner Burnett said, another 100 vehicles or so into that traffic day in and day out. Our roads can't handle it. And I think that's a valid reason for us to stand up and say this should be denied.
Especially residential traffic being so heavy during those peak AM and PM hours, whereas generally speaking, with anything that is commercial, is more spread out throughout the day. So so much is being planned up and down that corridor that to add any more, I think, would be detrimental at this point.
And I think since it's already zoned commercial and Rolesville is in such a great need for commercial, that it should be commercial based on past land use plans from 2007.
And our need for additional commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, our need for commercial is the outlier, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion? I'm gonna call for a vote. Okay, the motion was to deny.
Yes, sir.
Motion to deny. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sounds like the ayes have it. Ayes do have it. The motion is approved. Thank you, board. Appreciate that.
Mayor Curran, on the denial, just to make sure that it's clear for the staff and for the minutes, is the denial on the basis of inconsistency yet reasonable to deny? Or, I'm sorry, is it based on the basis of it being inconsistent? Or is it based on it being reasonable to deny even if it is consistent? Because I heard different arguments about consistency versus inconsistency with the comp plan. And when the clerk tries to capture the board's vote, I would actually prefer if we could get a statement with a motion that would draw 3 votes. That would make that clearer for the applicant as well as for staff.
Okay.
I wasn't sure.
State it one more time.
So there's 2 things. If you're at, you have to have a statement of consistency and reasonableness. So you can still vote no where the application is consistent with the comp plan, but you find that it is reasonable to deny for reasons that you articulate. For example, excessive traffic, this isn't the time, the request is for RH, whereas mixed residential tracks to RM, things like that you find, but it would be great to have that on the record.
I apologize for that, Dave, because it is consistent, but for the reasonableness, which I heard all 5 commissioners state, is the reason for denial. So I can redo it if you are asking for that.
Let me look to the clerk. Maybe the clerk caught the statement.
So the zoning present is commercial.
Zoning present is RPUD for commercial under a master plan. So this would be a change of use, and it is a change of zoning. You could not do residential there now under the current zoning.
Right.
Fair enough.
But you can do whatever is zoned for.
You can absolutely you can do commercial without coming back before the board, subject to dealing with the state's critical watershed rules. Correct.
On that basis, it is inconsistent with the comp plan.
The comp plan says mixed residential community, which I believe tracks to the RM district. So you could say it's inconsistent as it is an RH request.
So it would be inconsistent with the comp plan, and the commission has concerns about traffic, about stormwater, the runoff, and the need for commercial as opposed to residential.
All reasonable bases to make a decision.
Madam Clerk?
Catch that, Town Clerk.
Yes, so, the three was traffic runoff and third one, please.
The need for commercial as opposed to residential.
So it's not mixed use then, what's being proposed?
No.
No, sir.
It is, no.
Comp
it is.
plan says it's mixed use.
Yes, sir, it does.
The comp plan says mixed residential, which is, it can be a lot of things. It can be purely residential, but it allows for limited commercial as well.
But the current zoning on it is.
RPUD.
Yeah, I understand that it's an old zoning piece, but does that basically translate into commercial?
It does, because RMPUD required a master plan, and that was that gigantic map that staff put up originally, and there were blue areas. So the blue areas were to be the commercial parts of a larger master planned community, and the residential parts have panned out over time, although certainly not the way the original applicant intended them. Yeah.
So we have a motion to deny the rezoning 2503 based on inconsistency with Rolesville's comprehensive plan due to concerns of traffic runoff and the need for commercial as opposed to residential.
I look to the board.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yes, that's correct, ma'am.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk? That's correct.
We'll take a vote on that one.
So moved.
All right, do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds like ayes have it. I do have it. Thank you, board. Appreciate that. All right. Next item. I think you still up, Mike. Legislative hearing 25-10, Land Development Ordinance Text Amendment, Building Separation.
All right, yes. Item 10B is the text amendment that's brought forth by an applicant this evening to amend LDO Table 3.1.1 regarding townhome building separation requirements. The applicant is Dave Gorman with Lock 7 Development. And again, the request is to reduce the townhome building separation requirements, but only for 3-unit and 2-unit buildings or structures of townhomes. And if this sounds a little familiar, in August 2024, the board adopted another applicant-initiated text amendment to the same section, specifically for age-restricted townhomes, which decreased the building separation and the building setback requirements for 2-unit structures. So if you had one building with 2 townhome units and it was age-restricted occupied, the building setbacks would be decreased and the building separation would be decreased. That was approved by the board. So this request is similar to that. It's not age-restricted or limited to any cohort, so it's, quote, market rate housing, all the above, and would affect 2- and 3-unit structures. And for part of the discussion, perhaps, right now the LDO limits the numbers of attached dwelling units to 8 in any one building. So the maximum is 8, and this standard is only talking about a townhome building that has 2, 1, 2, or 3 units in it. So a relatively small building compared to that maximum of 8 that could be built with the appropriate zone.
So the maximum of 8 is the only
specification?
Correct.
That's
correct.
okay.
Yeah, right. So today there's no limit that keeps any developer, if they're approved for zoning that allows townhomes, to build a building with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 8, unless they self-controlled. We do have a lot of historical zonings in the town that limited themselves to 6. That seemed to be a popular kind of a digestible size of a building, mass of a building. But the LDO actually says 8, and the UDO also used to say 8. So here's what. There's two kind of sections that were amended. This is what the one section would be. So in blue, in that bold, minimum of 10-foot separation between structures of 3 units or less. So this would be added. And then on this page, a new special standard note saying that 2 or 3 unit single-family attached buildings, townhomes, that are adjacent to a 4-unit or greater townhome building would have to follow that existing 30-foot building separation. So again, the reduced building separation would only be between like 2 or 3 unit townhome buildings. But if you ended up doing a development scheme where you had a 3-unit building against a 4 or 5 or 6 unit or 7 or 8, then you'd have to do the existing 30-foot separation. So that was one of the kind of catches that could be an unintended consequence, because you could have lots of large townhome buildings, and then all of a sudden the developer would put a small one in there and go 10-foot and 10-foot separation between them. They'd save a lot of space potentially. Maybe not maximizing their units, but again, it was seen as a possible loophole. So that was closed with this second sentence, and staff and the applicant worked on this sentence.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
For the, where there is the differentiation there with the age controlled populations being built, where there's the 10-foot minimum, is it with the same situation if it's a 2 or 3 unit building, then currently it can be 10 feet, or is it a 6-unit building, 10 feet, and a 6-unit building, provided that it is age controlled?
No, so
It's only like in the 2 and 3 for.
It was actually only for 2-unit townhome buildings.
Okay.
And they have to be age restricted, which occurs through I believe a deed restriction on the property. The intent of that was really to allow these buildings that in some ways are the same size and scale as a lot of single-family detached homes, which often have 10-foot building separations between them, or 10-foot building setbacks. 5 foot and 5 foot equals 10 foot of separation. So that was I think the gist and the intent of that. And some of the considerations were, well, there was also a text amendment to reduce the parking requirements for age-restricted townhomes also, on the auspice that folks who live there will have less cars and less traffic trips and things like that. So it was kind of a package deal to create some age-restricted changes there to differentiate them from market townhomes. But also, it also said these standards are only for when you do a 2-unit townhome building.
Is the purpose of this to get more townhomes on a lot of land?
I'm going to let the applicant do their presentation, and
Okay.
maybe they can
Oh,
answer
wait.
whether this is a lot yield request or if this is a stylistic
Okay.
design scheme. But again, without this amendment, even if they put 2 or 3 units in a townhome building, they'd have to separate those buildings by 30 foot. So I really don't believe that doing the straight math, that this would be a lot yield request. Well, it's a lot yield request, but it also goes with the intent of we're going to build smaller buildings. And so the impact of those smaller buildings on one another, the massing is not the same. It starts to look like, what you get is starting to look like more like a single family home development, where buildings are closer together than 30 foot in a lot of instances. And what this really, again, not to jump to the chase of kind of the staff analysis, but this does allow for a different design of single family attached residential. Not that one, again, couldn't do this voluntarily, but if you did it today voluntarily, you'd have to separate those buildings by 30 foot. And that's throwing a lot of land potential out if you did that, to the point of you wouldn't be getting the lot yield that you would naturally. So it's bringing a product to market that the Rolesville town really doesn't have, because it would be rare for a developer to voluntarily do 2 or 3 unit townhome buildings and separate them by 30 foot.
And with the age restricted guidelines currently, did you say it's just for 2-unit buildings, or is it the 2 and 3 unit?
The amendment that the board adopted in 2024 was only for 2-unit structures and that are age restricted.
2-unit and age.
Since that was adopted, Has anyone proposed such a development?
Yes.
Where?
The 2-unit with a 10-foot separation?
Yes.
Right, oh, they have?
Yeah.
Okay.
One project. The Merritt Reserve subdivision.
Where?
Merritt Reserve.
Okay.
Where's that?
Rolesville Road.
Roseville
The
Road.
Merritt Park.
The Merritt Apartments.
Fowler and
Rolesville and Fowler.
You
Wilson
talking about
Road.
the
Yeah.
retirement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
55.
Yeah,
No,
55 of them.
What about other than a retirement community?
Well, that's the only one that's approved.
So the,
Correct. To use that text amendment, you have to be age restricted in your
restricted.
development, and the only age restricted development.
Ask for.
No, has any followed up after the text amendment to put it into place?
Yes,
And-
and that was brought forth by the same applicant.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I'll bring up the applicant now, and then just like the last presentation, I can go over some policy things and motions after the applicant's presentation and the hearing.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Appreciate your time this evening. My name is Gabe Cunningham.
Before you do that, I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing. I'm gonna consider your testimony in public hearing.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Good evening, my name is Gabe Cunningham. I'm here with Lock 7 Development, who is the applicant who has initiated this text amendment. This text amendment proposes a reduction in side setback minimums for 2- and 3-unit attached residences. By reducing this large 30-foot side setback requirement down to 10 feet, this amendment adds flexibility for townhome development, creates more walkable and cohesive neighborhoods, and this text amendment supports the goals of the 2050 comprehensive plan by promoting more diverse and attainable housing and building more connected and sustainable communities. Looking to neighboring municipalities, we can see both in Wake Forest as well as Knightdale, their side setbacks for a product similar to this are in line for what we're asking for. Along with that, we have been working both with staff as well as planning board since late last year to refine this language to get in front of you this evening. Happy to answer any questions behind this text amendment.
What are the setbacks, the actual setbacks in Knightdale and Wake Forest?
Yeah, of course. In Wake Forest, UDO section 2.2.3, side setbacks are 5 feet for townhome product. And in Knightdale, they're 10 feet, which is similar to what we're asking for.
So you're asking for 5 and 10, but basic side setbacks, and in between the buildings of side setbacks are 5 feet, and in between would be 10 feet?
Correct, yes, sir.
And that's in line, you said in line, or is that either of those other jurisdictions exactly the same?
Could you repeat that? I'm not sure I
Sure.
follow.
We've got two different spacing proposals in your text amendment. Does any other town have those exact same specifications in theirs?
For the 10 feet.
And the 5 feet?
And the 5 feet? No, we are sort of just asking for the 10 feet for this text amendment.
And what is the purpose for the narrowing it from 30 to 10?
It's both for sort of development efficiency, as well as creating a more diverse product. Land is expensive, and most of the time that cost is then passed down to the home buyer. So being able to have a more dense project allows to sort of reduce that home cost to create more attainable housing. Also, it's another visual aspect as well. Between 30 feet between each building can be wasteful. So those are a few of the reasons where we're proposing it.
Do you have a price point in mind for the finished product?
Currently, just not at the moment. I suppose not specific for this text amendment. I know this text amendment is general for the LDO of Rolesville. So I'd hate to narrow it down to a single proposed project. If that answers your question.
It doesn't, but
Sorry.
I understand, trust me.
Yeah.
But based on what you're saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, are you suggesting that the price point would be lower than what's available in the market today?
I can't speak to the current market rates right now, as it is proposed as a 2- and 3-unit product. It would be in line with both the current townhome market rate as well as single families, and somewhere between those.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any visuals that like we'd be able to kind of have that visual comparison of, you know, a product that you've already done where you have the 10-foot spacing in between units versus 30 feet?
Not this evening. I don't have any visuals this evening. I know there are other projects like the one that was mentioned previously, earlier this evening, the text amendment that was approved last year for the age-restricted product. I would refer you to look at sort of their scheme. I don't have anything this evening.
They haven't been built yet.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So you say more attainable housing. So tell me what you mean by that, because housing diversity, I understand 2 per building instead of 6, I get that. More attainable housing, to me, that means more affordable. So tell me how these could be more affordable if they are market rate. And in addition to that, answer that one first. So I get an answer. I'm sorry. Go ahead and answer that one first.
All right, just to summarize your question to make sure I have it right, how would this text amendment help with building more attainable product when they're going to be at market rate?
Yes.
That's okay. I understand that. It's another product that's new to Rolesville that hasn't been built yet. I know there have been projects that have been approved in that case. So be creating another product that's available to the citizens of Rolesville and the surrounding area creates another level for.
And so my second question is, with reducing it from 30 feet between the buildings, which is where it is right now, right? So that's 15 on each side of each building, down to 10. So 5 on each side of each building. So is this for aesthetics? I understand land efficiency because that would just leave not as much yard space. So on an acre of land with the 2 in a building, how many could you get on an acre with 30? And how many could you get on an acre with 10?
You put me on the spot for my quick math. No, I appreciate your question. It's also for the aesthetics as well, as it's tailored towards a sort of a wider product that would be more available for, or have the option for sort of a master or main bedroom down, sort of appealing to the senior population as well. But yes, it's also for efficiency as well as visual aesthetics as well.
So would this development have the 6 in a building and the 2 in a building? Or is it just mostly 2 and 3 in a building?
This is only for 2 and 3 in a building. Yes, ma'am. And the 3 is for efficiency as well. Not every property in Rolesville is a perfect rectangle. If it was, we'd keep it to 2, but since it's 3, there might be a sort of a dead-end road where there's room for 1 more unit. But by having 1 more unit, it would be considered a different product type. It'd be a single-family home rather than a single-family attached home. So by including it as a 3-unit building, it's 1 product type across the board.
Okay, one final question, y'all, and then I'm done. So based on your experience and your expertise, are there builders that build 6 units in a building and as low as 2 in a building? So is there a chance in Rolesville that we could have that builder building the big 6 and then a 2 and a big 6 and then a 2?
I do not know of a project that would be what you're speaking of. If that was the case, and if they did want to do it, I know in one of the notes that setback would go to the larger, so it would be the 30 feet rather than the 10 feet that we're proposing. That was a note that was mentioned in planning board. We addressed it with the staff and included it in this amendment tonight.
All the little pictures, Jen, in there using this. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Any other questions from the board?
You said if there was a 6 and a 2, then it would go to the 30, right?
That's correct. It would go to the larger building
Okay.
setback.
I promise I'm done.
It's okay. Good questions. Any other? Good question. Okay. Is anybody signed up? Thank you.
Thank you.
No one else signed up for it.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We're back on you, Mike. You want to come up and?
And after I finish my presentation, I may be able to offer some answers to some of those questions as well if you want to re-ask them.
Okay.
I had some thoughts. Staff considered this against comprehensive plan, the 2050 plan for consistency. In essence, this could start to work towards diminishing the absolute dominance that the town has of single-family detached residential. This is an option, and I think some text amendments have come before you and have been explained as this is an option that doesn't exist today, but if you make it part of the toolbox, it might become reality. Obviously, you can't have this if it's never part of the package or tools that a developer can pursue. So this could end up providing a wider range of housing options. To the question that we just heard, a development that does mix 6-unit, 5-unit, 4-unit, 3-unit, and 2-unit townhome buildings. And for all we know, those could be marketed at different rates. Maybe those in the 6-unit building might be lower on the market price than those are on the others. Maybe the square footages of them would drastically be different. So you could have different price points and different types of even amenity packages in the different townhomes, yet they're all townhomes. And so the developer could have all of that flexibility to develop all of those different types of units, sizes of units, price points of units in the same zoning district and not have to worry about that being a hiccup. So that's where staff views this as a really great potential flexible tool to get different and varied products in the town. And those products could relate to things like price points, which gets into housing affordability, attainable housing, et cetera, which really does mesh and dovetail with the town's recently adopted housing affordability plan. So
That would be my next question to you. With us adopting that, with seeing something like this, will that be a part of the conditions as far as in affordability since we have that plan?
Well, one thing I was hoping maybe get the question, be able to add, if the board asks the town staff to start working on some implementation steps of that plan, I think a text amendment like this would be very, very likely. Because again, this could open up the opportunity for developers to create different types of housing units. They're still townhomes, but they are different when you got 2 in a building versus 6 in a building or 8 in a building. And that affects price point, which affects affordability.
Well,
So
they could be larger, like you mentioned masters on the first floor. So it could be a larger footprint of a townhome.
Absolutely.
That's easier to do, and then it obviously would be a higher price point, but it would be a different option.
That's right. Absolutely. And again, those units could be sold in a community where all your yard maintenance is maintained by an HOA. And so again, the person who doesn't want to do yard maintenance or be surrounded by grass in a typical detached, type of environment wouldn't have that. Again, it's an option that currently is probably thwarted by the economics of that 30-foot building separation. The planning board did review this at their December 15th meeting, and they made a recommendation of approval. They did kind of get on board with that addition of the 30-foot building separation when you do have a 2 or 3 unit building against a larger building. So that is part of the reason why that language is in there as well. The planning board did kind of jump on that idea and that caveat. So that again is part of the proposal here tonight with this text amendment. So based on that, staff does find that this is consistent with the comprehensive plan and even that housing attainability plan. And so it does recommend approval of the text amendment. And then, of course, your typical slides here for the motions to approve or deny, statements of consistency and reasonableness.
Okay. Board, did everybody get their question? I know you wanted visuals. You didn't get to see the visuals.
Yes, but after, asking the questions and having further clarification, this would be able, adopting this amendment, we could possibly see more duplexes instead of these huge, 6-unit townhomes, which it just, from what I can see, we have so much of the same product coming at us. My aunt used to live in a duplex, and it was very desirable because it was, smaller than a house. They still had their backyard, but they weren't sharing the walls, with as many people. So personally, I see this, like you said, just as another tool in the toolbox, being able to add something that looks a little bit different, but still have a range of cost for various housing projects. So I at first, when I first read it, before the meeting, I was thinking 10 feet. My wingspan is 5. So, at first I was like, what the heck? But picturing it as having basically duplexes within a neighborhood versus 5-6 unit townhomes, could be very desirable to some, and especially if it wasn't 3 stories up, because that can be so prohibitive with those that maybe are getting older. They don't want like the multiple floors with stairs. So I think that this would actually be a nice addition to the toolbox.
Michael, can you let us know, does this include duplexes or is it only townhomes?
Only townhomes. So a duplex is a different land use. It's a totally different zoning use. A duplex is 1 lot, 1 building, 2 dwelling units.
Okay.
So it would not include that. So my issue is on the seniors, it makes sense because I think that goes to affordability, for having the 10-foot separation. For this product, and I'm not speaking for him, but what I glean is it could allow for a larger type of townhome, which goes to a different market than it would be for a less expensive senior townhome. And if that's the case, would someone paying that kind of money for a nicer townhome want to have their neighbor 10 feet away? And I don't know the answer to that, but that may go against that whole notion. Whereas it might, and it does, I think it makes sense in the senior community, but maybe not for everyone else.
But I think we don't even know. We don't have a clue if they're going to be larger townhomes. We don't know if they're going to be smaller townhomes. We have no idea.
We don't. Well, the one point was that price point was somewhere between townhomes and single-family homes, which
Is that what he said?
Higher end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
It is. I think we might be overthinking a little. And what I do believe, if you look in the package, you'll see a reasonable distance, if you will, in regards to the spacing. What I think the most concern that we have is affordability, and if this project is going to be affordability, but what we don't want is this continuation of townhome sprawl. And so we're teetering with that. And so this is something different because it doesn't look like, especially from the satellite imagery, of what a townhome area looks like. So I like that part of it. But I do have a question about adding language that would allow duplexes if necessary. Would that something we have to come back and do a text amendment on? Or is that something we can put into this conversation tonight?
So duplexes in building code, and I think in general statutes, are referred to as 2-family dwelling.
Okay.
They're
Referred to as what, I'm sorry?
Two-family dwelling. So they're grouped with single-family detached dwellings. There's some protections at state law levels about regulations upon those uses. They also follow very similar building code requirements and fire code. There's one reason that 5-foot setbacks are about as small as they get. 5 + 5 = 10, and 10 is fire code building separation minimum. Before you have to do extreme things like fire rate a wall or not put penetrations, or meaning windows on those walls that are so close to one another. So duplexes or single-family, 2-family, sorry, are basically one and the same. They are technically different zoning uses, but they're generally allowed in a lot of the same zoning districts. Not all, but some. And then they're regulated by building code the same, whereas townhomes are regulated by different because of all the party walls and the common spaces between them, the common attic spaces and things of that nature. But to your point, if the board wants to look at duplexes or two-family dwelling units for building separation, we could do that. But the general rule of thumb is they follow the same as single-family detached.
Okay.
Thank you.
In the zoning. So,
Thank you.
said another way, I don't think there's a problem with duplexes in town. I'm not even sure if there's any that were built through subdivision. There might be some sitting out there on some tracts of land, you know, it's kind of the older development, but not through a subdivision that I've seen.
In Rolesville?
In Rolesville.
It's a few.
Infill, mostly, aren't they?
Hmm?
They were infill, not subdivisions.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, not say there's some out there in Rolesville, but it's one here, one there. They weren't done through a subdivision plan where separation of those buildings was a consideration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that clarity.
Well, and the other thing too is that, you know, well, no, I take it back. So basically it would fall under the high residential. Okay, never mind.
Any other, April, did you get your question? I know you wanted to know, was it being proposed somewhere already? You get that answered.
I don't think it is, right? Not being proposed anywhere.
Not as of yet.
Yeah.
It's just a text amendment brought forth by this applicant, again, trying to expand the toolbox, add another type of housing opportunity that they could potentially seek project.
Any other comments, discussions?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Okay.
I will close the public hearing and turn it over to the board for deliberations and consideration of this proposal. Text Amendment 25-10.
I make a motion to approve TA 2510 LDO text amendment to table 3.1.3 to reduce townhome building separation requirements because it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, got a motion. Is there a second?
Good? Yep. Okay.
I heard promoting diversity of housing. Promoting diversity of housing, which is called for by the comp plan.
That's exactly why I think we should have it.
Okay, got a motion, second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Sound like the ayes have it. Ayes do have it. Motion is approved. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, so I have a second part right there. I make a motion to adopt the statement of consistency and reasonableness as TA 2510 is consistent with the Rolesville's comprehensive plan supporting the plan's land use and housing focus area and is therefore reasonable.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds like the ayes have it. Ayes do have it. Motion approved. Thank you. We've been going almost 2 hours. You want to take a break? You do?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a 10-minute. We'll come back at 8:30. Mic you up with the next item C at 8:30. Thank you very much. So we're in recess. Hey, we are out of recess, back in order. So, next item is item B, legislative hearing TA 25-11, Land Development Ordinance Text Amendment Buffer Yards. It's all you, Mike.
Thank you, sir. Yes, this is another applicant-initiated text amendment. Mr. Dave Gorman with Lock 7 Development has been the applicant for this. They're requesting to modify the required perimeter buffers specifically to eliminate walls in these buffers when between residential developments. So this will all be about residential zoned developments against residential zoned developments. And in italics here, this topic of considering the elimination or the reduction of fences and walls in the perimeter buffers between residential zoning districts has been a discussion by the board several times as we've considered some rezonings and I think some other text amendments. And I can tell you at the staff level, this comes up very, very often, especially at due diligence when we're vetting a piece of property with the developer and they see the exhibits I'm about to show you and their jaws sometimes drop, that these are the requirements, and especially when it's residential. So we'll get into this here. So first we're going to go over some of the the red line or the blue line in this case, changes to the ordinance. So the section is technically 6.2.2.1, point capital F, point 2, the perimeter buffer type 2. And I will show you how there are 4 different types, a type 1, a type 2, a type 3, and a type 4 of perimeter buffer yards in the LDO currently. The applicant's seeking just a few changes to that scheme of various buffer yards. So where shown in table 6222, perimeter buffer type 2L would denote landscape materials only and a fence would not be required. The type 2L buffer would include at least 25% more landscape materials than a typical type 2. So the deletion of a fence would equate to more live plantings going there. So it's not just a removal of one of the items being the hardscape, the fence, it would be actually more plants rather than a fence. And then a type 2L perimeter buffer must include at least 1 evergreen tree per 100 linear feet, either a canopy or an understory tree, and in addition, at least 35% of the plant materials in the buffer shall be evergreen. So this here would ensure that there be some opacity, meaning you can't see through the buffer of live plantings as much as the current prescription of plantings. And again, that would be replacing the natural opacity of a fence. A fence you can't see through. So you remove the opacity of a fence 100%, but then you replace it with some live plant species that get some of that percentage of opacity or the blockage of view through the buffer yard. So that's the gist of the removal of the fence here. And it would be connotated again by a type 2L, L being, you want to think of it as light or low versus the standard, which is the whole type 2, which is a fence, and then the plantings. And then very similar, I did change the screen here. This is for the type 3. And again, the language is similar. The type 3L would be landscape materials only, no fence. The perimeter buffer would be at least 25%. More landscape materials than a regular type 3, which would include a fence. So you get more plants minus the fence. And then at least 1 evergreen tree per 100 feet. In addition, 35% shall be evergreen. So the replacements would be the same in the type 2 and the type 3. Here's what the section's perimeter buffer yard table in the LDO looks like. If you're developing a property, you're looking at the gray column, vertical column on the left. So your property is RL, RM, RH. Then you're looking at what the adjacent property is. That's in the blue across the top. So if you're an RM zone property and you're adjacent in RL, so that would be, this is your property and you're going through the subdivision process and your neighbor's property is this. This amendment would allow you to do a type 2L. Because right now it's a type 2. That's a 25-foot depth with a fence and all the planting requirements. The L would thus allow you to negate the fence and then do just the plantings, plus again those increased amounts of evergreens and so forth to get a little more opacity or screening effect of that buffer, but without the hardscape of the fence. So that's how this table is used. And so this is again, one of those things that staff goes through with due diligence on every development and every project. We look at this so that applicants can understand what the perimeters are. Remember, even a small 5-acre property can have up to thousands of linear feet of perimeter buffer, as it may buffer different properties. And some properties buffer different properties that have different zoning. And so the perimeter buffer requirements could be a type 2 on this property edge, type 3 here, et cetera. So it can vary as well. This is a picture of what the type 1 is. It's a 10-foot dimension. It includes and requires that 6-foot fence, and then plantings would go on this side here. This is the outside property line. So if you were the adjacent property, you'd be over here. You would first have trees and shrubs, and then the fence. And then this is a lateral view for the spacing. Every 100 feet, the plantings would look like that. Okay, so kind of large canopy tree, low shrubs, canopy tree, that's an understory tree, et cetera. And then you see that fence in the drawing behind it. So that's what it would look like if you were on the outside of the property looking into this new project that's considering developing and would have to build that. Here's a type 2, and I apologize, I did say 25-foot. It is a 15-foot dimension, but does include, again, that hardscape fence, and then trees and understory shrubs and so forth. So again, this is what that would look like with that fence. Remember, this is what the LDO is currently. So the type 3, it increases to a 25-foot depth. It requires a 6-foot wall, and then again, those plantings. So remember, your adjacent property is over here. With a 25-foot depth, there generally be kind of an undeveloped, a grassy area here, and then they would do the plantings, and then you would do that wall rather far in, generally 20 to 22 feet into the buffer yard before that wall starts. And again, this is what it would look like from that adjacent property, that prescription of trees, certain things every linear feet, and then that wall behind there. And then this is a type 4. Type 4 is, again, it's generally 25 foot to the peak of the berm with a 5-foot wall on top. Sorry, it's a 3-foot wall on top of a 5-foot berm, so an 8-foot opaque, and then plantings of trees and shrubs in between there. So that's the intensity there, from a 1 to a 2 to a 3 to a 4. The distance gets greater, and then the intensity of both the landscaping, and there's always a hardscape. Be either a fence in type 1 and type 2, or a wall in type 3, or a berm and a wall in type 4. So I'll let the applicant come up and kind of explain some of the reasons that they applied for this text amendment, and then we can get back into looking at these changes and or looking at some of the policy considerations. And of course, the public hearing, but I don't believe we have any sign-ups.
Okay, thank you. You can come up. And we got the public hearing open, so if you would state your name and address again for the record.
Yeah, of course. My name is Gabe Cunningham. I'm at 1306 East Millbrook Road here in Raleigh. This is another text amendment that Lock 7 is the applicant for. For this text amendment, we propose a landscape perimeter buffer in place of a masonry wall or fence between residential districts. These currently that are in place, the walls and the fences, we believe are intended for high intensity transitions, whether it's between a residential medium density or a gas station or another residential type and another commercial aspect. We understand that there should be a transition that's appropriate for that change of uses. Walls between the residential districts, we believe, are visually intrusive and can hinder neighborhood connectivity. The landscape buffers we are proposing provide screening while supporting healthier site conditions, better environmental outcomes, public health and safety and welfare. Overall, this approach, we believe, preserves the vegetation and also promotes a more connected and walkable community as envisioned in the 2050 comprehensive plan. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
The only question that I have is on that number 4 that you showed, the berm would still be there, just the wall is gone. This is just taking away the wall, right? On all of these.
Let's go back.
I don't believe type 4 would be included in this. It's only
2 and 3.
just
That's
1,
right,
2, and
that's
3.
right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I did show you all 4 types
Yeah.
just for context, and so you can know what they all represent.
Okay.
Should you have any questions about the other 2.
Okay.
But yeah, the applicant's only seeking to make the changes to type 2 and type 3 as shown in the blue.
Got a question for you, Mike. With this project, if we approve this, this will be precedent for every project that comes back to us, correct?
Yes, this would affect any new project. Remember, it's an option. I mean, it's a rule. Doesn't preclude an applicant from voluntarily putting a fence within a perimeter buffer.
That's my
But right now, it's a
concern.
requirement.
That's my major concern because with our residents, I think that we need to have a compromise of this, meaning have an option. If the resident wants a fence put up, then the builder should put a fence up. If the resident agrees to the shrubbery and the wintergreen trees, I think it should be an option, not just a,
You mean option for the entire development or an option for that resident?
I mean, if we have the majority of the residents come and saying that they want a privacy fence up, they won't have that option no more if we approve this, correct?
Correct. If their property was, for instance, RL against an RM or an RH rezoning project, removing the fence would remove the fence as a requirement.
Right. And you could not put it back. That's,
The applicant could voluntarily do it
right, correct. That's,
as a condition of rezoning approval. They could voluntarily do that. They could do it as a by right standard as well. But they
I'm
wouldn't
just looking
have
at some
to.
unintended impacts such as, loss of perceived privacy of our residents and then disputes between HOAs as well.
There's that potentiality.
Yes.
What was the original intent of putting a perimeter fence around? 'Cause, I mean, I'm thinking you have the fence on most of them, when your kids go, astray.
Yeah.
And that's a perimeter fence that helps keep them at least within the community. And,
Yeah.
cats and things like that as well.
Sure. As currently written, it's a requirement, which means the town has decided that neighborhoods shall be walled in
I'm saying it should be
and
an
walled
option.
off from outside.
Option to have it.
Is this standard or this change of buffer, is this occurring in other municipalities? And if so, could you name them? Like, is this something that is taking place in Zebulon, Wendell, Idell, Wake Forest, Apex?
I do not have that research in front of me, but I don't know if the applicant might, just like the last text amendment.
Yeah, I couldn't point to another municipality within Wake County that has what's currently in the LDO, which has the walls and the fences in place.
And is the difference the hardscape, the walls, and the fences?
It's correct. It's the difference is the hardscape and the fences. Having a 20 or 30 acre parcel, having to have that perimeter around the entire thing is both very costly, but also having a disruptive to the environmental features that are on the property currently.
So essentially, Rolesville, we're the only ones within the region here that has, where we're asking for a hardscaped wall in between residential properties.
To my knowledge, yes. We have other projects in other municipalities, and we have not come across that to date.
I will say, as long as I've been on the board, I remember a lot of conversations about the trees and the fences between the properties. So my question is this. So the fence as it stands right now, that's around the entire property?
Yes.
The perimeter.
So could it be just at the front of the development between the properties? Do you understand what I'm saying? Just for a softer landscape, visually pleasing to the eye, and depending on where the property is, though.
Well, what is it now for like, say a property comes up on Everett Road? would that negate the necessity for basically a wall holding in the proposed community from the busy road?
No.
You know, like Averett or?
They're separate street yard.
It is
buffers.
separate?
That's
Okay, so this.
That's a whole other standard.
Okay.
This is perimeter, so it's your
It's just
interior side.
between.
Yeah. So if you're a house lot, your street side is that, and then you have two sides and a rear, right? Think of a subdivision, 100 acres has two sides and a rear. That's where perimeter buffer, it's one of the first things that have to be designed. Space has to be allocated, that 25 foot or 10, whatever, is in a separate lot owned by the HOA. It's not on every residential lot. That's number one. And so again, if you had two neighborhoods that did perimeter buffer yards, you'd have 50 feet of essentially no man's land between two walls, 4 fences.
So I guess with what I was asking, and Commissioner Burnett clearly got clarity on, is that right now we're the only municipality that has fencing as part of our standard. Did I catch that correct? David?
I am often on the developer side, and I've been in certainly more than 100 communities in this state. Many have fence requirements. Some of the more sophisticated communities have a wall option or other options to allow the property owner who's seeking to develop to narrow the width of the buffer. So if you think about it, it's sort of flipping our default on its head, or maybe that may be how we are different. But certainly in a dense project where land was at a premium, my clients have proposed or selected from a menu, sort of like we have here. They have made additional plantings, they have added additional fencing, and they have added a berm, they have added a wall, because what they needed was narrowing of those buffers because it's eating the land. You'll see that in all of the urban places in the state at this point, would be my guess. So the fence and the wall and the additional plantings are used to take up less property. You can go the other way as well, and you can get rid of all the extra plantings if you give 100 feet, for example. So there's that level of sophistication. I don't think it would be true to say we're the only ones that do X. There are, I don't know why there are many ways to skin a cat, but apparently at one point in history that was important, and every community has a different way of doing this. And I think the only thing that's true is that over time, these menus get more complicated to tweak it, because you are trading out costs and benefits, right? Impacts upon neighbors, wasted space, loss of affordability, all those things are being traded out. You had a rezoning case tonight. I only heard one request from the public. It was for a fence.
It was.
There's always a request for a fence. And would be my guess that in 2021, we nip that in the bud by requiring a fence.
That makes me think about any houses that back up to a major road. I don't know where they are in Rolesville. I'm not looking at the map right now. But think about that homeowner there. Is that buffer going to be enough so where they wouldn't need a fence there?
Most of them, I think, have their own fences on property.
That's an option. They could do that too.
Well, like where I live on Rogers Road, in Heritage, you know, just past Mitchell's Heating, there's a big long fence. It's the same fence, you know, blocking them off from the road. So, which it sounds like that is still at play if we're talking about residential up to a roadway. So, if I understand this correctly, by having the wall, where we currently are, having the wall and the plantings, what is that total buffer amount? And I know it's in here somewhere. I'm just trying to piece it all together. Is it basically a shorter buffer zone, whereas if they opt to do plantings and no wall, that it's a larger buffer zone with plantings? Or no, it's going to be the same,
Same space,
just with no wall?
no wall, but increased plantings.
Density,
The numbers and more of the opaque variety, the evergreens.
Sure.
To get more of that screening kind of equation that a wall, because again, a wall is 100% opaque. You cannot see through that. Even if you can see through the shrubs and the understory of the trees and everything, you cannot see through a 6-foot fence. So as written, more evergreens would work to create more opacity, but you wouldn't have that physical barrier that the fences have.
And making the neighborhood look better too.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's a philosophical question of, do we want to wall communities into themselves and away from other communities, or do we want to not?
But the community coming in never wants the fence. They don't live there, so they don't request it. It's the people already live there that's been there for 10, 15, 20 years. If something comes in their backyard, they want a
That's right. And those folks usually don't have fences. Their subdivision requirements didn't require their neighborhood to have a fence, and so they want the other development to have a fence. So there is some level of equity.
That's what I'm asking for, the option of, there should be an option.
But as Michael
Not
Paul
admitted.
said, they can add their own fence.
I live off Rogers Road, on the roadside, and my neighbor added his own fence. So I just think we're adding trees, people.
Yeah,
I'd much rather see trees than a
agree.
wall.
me too.
You're adding things that help our community and our environment.
To be sure, we don't overlook another piece that is beyond the Lock 7 application. There is an unintended consequence of the LDO in the way it was drafted that has bothered poor Meredith Gruber for 5 years. And Mike just mentioned it, and that is when developer 1 comes in and builds the fence, followed by developer 2, 1 year later, you end up with 2 fences. No one supports that. That makes no sense.
Agreed.
And so while that's not before you today in the text change, although it would be fixed if you eliminate the fence, if you don't do it in every case, we certainly need a text change, a technical change to stop fence buildup.
Even if we remove the fence requirement, you still need both buffers between 2 residential neighborhoods?
I think that's pretty common. Some more sophisticated communities have allowed the second one to get a reduction, so it doesn't become double, it becomes 1.5. There's so many different menu items in this, but I'm unaware of any, let's have a wall and then some trees and then some more wall. That's never been desirable. It's effectively a greenway that you can get dedicated very easily. Deer path, yeah. Habitat.
So who's responsible for the
Squirrel
fence
crossing.
in 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
The HOA, because the buffer is in a lot dedicated and owned by the HOA. So it's not on private property and
They do put them on private property, though.
not in the LDO. In the UDO, yes.
So was Chandler's Ridge did before that?
That's
Because they
UDO.
put a fence up, but it's all on private property.
Well, private property being HOA owned or private property being the backs of everybody's residential
Back of
lot?
everybody's.
Okay, yeah. That is rampant in the UDO. That's all over the place.
So we fixed that,
Yes,
and now we going to eliminate.
yes.
Because really, that's the problem we've having is they're putting these fences in on your property. This happens in Turtle Plantation over there. We were required them to put fencing in. It goes to, what's the name of that street? The old street over there. Not Broughton, but, the old street beyond y'all's that y'all connect to.
Watkins Farm?
Huh?
Watkins Farm?
No, it's before Watkins. No, it's before that. Can't think of the name of it. But, no, it's between the main road and Watkins Farm. It's a little street in there that got older houses on it that connects. Weather Street, that's the name of it. Weather Street. So those old houses on Weather Street, the board required them to put fences up, but they put them on private property, and now they fell down, nobody puts them back up. So, that's, sounds like we fixed the problem, but now we want to eliminate putting them up altogether?
Well,
Because I guess it's more expensive now to do it because you're doing it on
these would
HOA
be-
property.
Yeah, so this would be HOA property installed by the developer the one time, then owned and maintained equally by the HOA. So it doesn't fall on, you have 100 feet of, the fence on your back property, the next guy does, one guy wants to fix it, one guy doesn't want it, one wants to paint it blue, one wants to paint it red.
So really,
none of that.
what they're asking is to go back to the old way, take the property line with no HOA between them. Is that kind of?
Well, none of this is seeking to change the fact that the requirements are a buffer yard that is in a lot unto itself. This is just to eliminate the fence in a type 2 and a 3 and increase the numbers of plantings. And we've talked about, individual residential yard fences, right? So in this case, somebody's yard in this drawing on the picture would butt up on the left side of the image. And if they wanted to fence their dog in, they could not cross into the buffer yard to connect to that development fence or wall. So they'd build a redundant fence several feet away from that. So now you've got two communities with two walls or fences separating them with a no man's land, plus each person's backyard fencing their own yard in. That's 4 fences within 110 feet. Is what the requirements today predict.
I'd rather see more trees.
So you rather what?
Would you say? You sure I would?
What'd you say, Jen?
I said, I'd rather see more trees, you know?
One of the residents have a choice.
Any other questions for, I guess you're the one that's officially up here, so. Any more questions for the applicant here? Are we done with the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, any more questions of Mike before he finishes it up here?
Yeah, I did have one question. This has nothing to do with the height of the actual evergreens, right?
No,
There will be no height stipulations at all that we have to consider as part of this.
no, there's already standards about plantings and regulations and species and all that stuff. That would be by the quote book, by the LDO.
Okay.
It would just be the percentages of evergreens. Because right now it is per 100 foot, you have to do a canopy tree, an understory tree. There's options of evergreen and this and that. This would require that at least 35% be evergreen.
But again, it's height, what's the standard? Is it 6 foot, 8 foot?
Well, I think an evergreen tree is just a certain species of pine or magnolias or something like that, the trees that keep their leaves. And so that's what their planting plan would have to demonstrate, compliance with 35%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not even sure evergreens are part of the required landscape because all of the buffers have an opaque wall or fence or berm. So opacity in the LDO was not an issue with the plantings. It's really more as an aesthetic. But when you talk about removing the hardscape, the wall or the fence, in this case we're talking fences, then opacity does become a question mark. And so this text amendment tries to gain back some of that opacity by going with a higher percentage or a minimum percentage, let's say, of evergreens.
So it sounds like regardless of how we come out on this tonight, we still should revisit the whole double buffer issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think, sorry to skip back to,
Yes, we can visit it.
I think this table here needs a lot of work. And staff's identified that for a couple of years now. I know that it's on the new director's radar. Again, the applicant tonight is only concerned about the residential. That's why you see RL, RM against RL, but holistically. And if you remember in 2022, Ms. Gruber brought a text amendment to delete the required buffers between general commercial and general commercial. Because again, we were having walls and 25-foot landscapes between McDonald's and Burger King, and it made no sense. And so that was eliminated. That's why you see the NAs across there where GC and GC align, no buffer required, et cetera. I think a little more thought towards the intent and the impact of these buffers is probably in the offing for the town. But right now, this would be a solution to, when in some cases is redundant buffer yards for a residential zone property against a residential zone property, and certainly elimination of some of that hardscape cost And remember, every cost for development equals cost to the homeowner. So it does play into that affordability topic, even when we're talking about fences or walls at a certain level.
I just read that local zoning issues add $94,000 to the cost of a home.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
This would
Crazy.
be one of those.
yeah, I read that this week.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So this is one of those.
One has to pay for it.
Any additional questions? Just for clarity, Mike, 1 through 4 up there, fencing today is required for all of them or just,
Sure, I'll go through that one.
just for clarity?
Type 1, which is the least intense, yes, 6-foot fence.
Yeah.
Type 2, 6-foot fence. Type 3 is a 6-foot wall. And type 4 is a 5-foot berm with a 3-foot wall on top of it, so 8 foot of height of opaqueness.
And just for clarity, which number are you eliminating?
The text amendment is to only affect type 2 and type 3. So this, a type 2 is a 15-foot depth with a 6-foot fence, and then those plantings per 100 feet of linear length. Eliminate the fence there, but increase the amount of, well, a 35% minimum evergreen, and a 25% overall plant increase. And then the type 3, eliminate the wall. And again, 25% more overall landscaping per 100 linear foot, and 35% of that has to be evergreen.
Or didn't 1 require a fence?
Yes, it did, but the applicant's only seeking to change type 2 and type 3.
Hmm?
The applicant is only seeking to change the type 2 and type 3 buffer.
Go to 1 though. I mean, we're still leaving the fence when it's,
Understood. If the board would wish to make the same changes to type 1 buffer.
trying to understand
yeah,
why we
yeah.
do that. Why do we,
Do some and not the other.
yeah, I mean,
If we're gonna
Because
do
it's what
it
the
all.
I mean,
applicant
it
wanted.
needs to make sense to us, not the applicant.
Throughout the whole town.
If
Yeah, the
board
whole,
wishes-
thing need to make,
Yes.
Forward.
so why are we doing 2 and 3 and not 1? I'm gonna ask you as a planning director or planning,
If the board thinks this is a good idea, we can certainly expand the scope of this. The board could approve this and initiate staff to look at the other buffer types and do similar changes. We can come back with another amendment. This is an applicant-initiated amendment, and they've only asked for types 2
So,
and
so what I'm hearing you say is this is not the platform tonight to address the rest. This is just in regards to this particular application.
That's
And
correct.
that we need to tell you as of tonight to go do what you need to do to help us update this particular part of the buffer requirements.
That would be, if that's the board's decision, to look further at all the types of buffers,
Yeah, I got you.
and really, any other extent of this table here on screen, then
If the board has an interest in making an amendment to 1 or 1L, we would just need to know what the notice was that went out to the public. I'm sorry, but there was no notice on this, it's a text amendment, right?
newspaper.
We had a newspaper notice. So if the newspaper notice put folks on notice that we were only doing 2 and 3, then you can't do 1. If it says that we were taking a look at the section on buffering, then you can do it tonight.
Do we
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah. Do you know, Michael?
I would need to pull up the advertisement, see, I think the town clerk's doing that as we speak, see exactly what was advertised.
I guess where it gets a little bit confusing is the blue L, that's what we're looking to add in tonight. So, but previously where it stands right now, 1L, is the L, does that stand for like the landscaping versus the fence?
Has a fence.
Right.
It still has a fence though.
Sorry, my cursor. We're shown in table 6222, perimeter type, buffer type 1L denotes landscape materials only. A fence is not required.
Oh, it's not required.
So it already is not required.
So we're good.
So 1 is that, I mean, we don't have to worry.
RL against RL is a 1L, so it's the 15-foot, no fence,
No
but the plant.
Yeah, okay, I think that's where it was getting confusing because
So
Just to be clear, that's why the L is beside it.
it's for
that's right.
landscaping.
That's right. Sorry, I guess.
Okay, so then 2
I
and
could have
3.
explained that L is already a thing.
Uh-huh.
the applicant saw the L and said, I think it makes sense in these other locations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so they're perpetuating that concept of deleting the landscape, or sorry, deleting the fence or the wall in a type 3 in these certain circumstances. And you can kind of look across there. Again, there's a matrix to this where zoning districts match up against one another or like ones. Again, GC against OP, office professional, kind of similar, you know, big non-residential buildings. You can see where the L's exist. And actually on the far right, you do see some 1s. So GC against highway commercial is a type 1L. It's only 15 foot with the trees only. Because again, you're expecting to have large buildings, people working there, et cetera, why buffer those against one another? The most intense zoning, buffer yards you see along the top, along the bottom, 4s and 3s, those are the most intense types. So where do you see those? But you don't see them kind of from the top left down to the bottom right.
So just for tonight's purposes, it's with residential, it's 2 and 3, and basically making landscaping consistent between anything residential.
Correct.
Which honestly, I feel personally, my vote would, yes, I want more trees. So it would make sense to move forward with this particular option.
I think it's removing the fence.
Right.
But the trees are already there.
We're adding more.
We're adding more trees.
On the other side of that fence.
No,
As part of the buffer.
As part of the buffer.
Oh, that's right, to make it.
Yeah, get rid of the wall
Okay,
or fence.
the opaqueness, okay.
And add in more trees.
Yeah.
Evergreens.
Okay,
Clarity?
good.
Everybody got clarity?
Yep.
Any more questions from Mike?
No, sir.
Okay. Wrap it up, Mike.
Yep. So I have tweaked this motion here in consultation with the town attorney to kind of bring that consistency statement right into your original or initial motion here. So it's a motion to approve or deny because it is either consistent or inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, and then state a few of the reasons, the things that you're seeing. Again, more trees, et cetera. You say those things, we've just combined the two aspects. We only need the one motion.
Okay.
Quick note, when you say, I hear mention from the board, there's an interest in more trees. I just wanted to, if you could back up to the slide, they mentioned opacity. With the opacity, currently, if you remove the fence, it does not increase the amount of trees that go in lieu of the fence being removed.
But it does, but the shrubbery does increase, correct?
Trees, evergreens, opacity.
So
the opacity number doesn't increase, if I'm not mistaken.
So A would denote landscape materials only if fence is not required. A type 3 perimeter buffer must include at least 25% more landscape materials than a type 3 otherwise would or does currently in. So 25% more overall landscape materials. And then include 1 evergreen tree per 100 linear feet. So that's introducing something that's not currently in there. And in addition, at least 35% of the plant materials have to be evergreen.
So it's adding in the evergreen.
It's gaining back some opacity that you lose 100% opacity when you delete a fence, obviously. But this is gaining back some of that opacity by requiring evergreens, which is not currently in the code.
I guess my more direct question would be,
are these the right
have you all
numbers?
considered the percentage of opacity?
Yeah, it's
and if you would like to increase the amount of opacity while you're thinking about the trees.
That's a fair question.
Because to avoid having to revisit this once we see it in real
Yeah, because they could
time.
be junipers that are low lying.
Yeah, we could say 35 and 45.
And you won't be able to go back in the future.
Nope.
Because you might create a nonconformity.
What's reasonable, 35 and 45? I mean, what have you seen that?
Well, part of it depends on what type of evergreens and other shrubs.
That's true.
Because you want it to be high enough.
Very much so, opaque, yeah.
Because what you're trying to do is create a natural fence instead of an artificial.
Which is why I asked about the height, because I have evergreens on the back of my, that are facing the road that are going to be 8 feet tall. So, and it will provide a perimeter, a
Not if
barrier.
they're 100 feet apart, though.
But that part.
Could we require evergreens that are between so many feet and so many
Yes.
feet that would equal the 6 feet of the fence?
Well, they'd have to
Yeah,
be a
is
lot
that something that
closer
the planning
together.
board could kind of rewrite, increasing?
Right, so the standard will be written, you can remove the fence, but an opacity of X% must be met through landscape plantings, almost period. And then you would leave the applicant all the choices in the world. You could still set up that there still has to be X canopy trees and things like that at a minimum, but they still have to achieve an opacity rate of 30%, 40%, 50%, whatever the board finds. Because again, remember, you're giving up all opacity when you delete the fence.
I would say opacity of 40%.
So you can gain back some through natural plantings if you wish, if that's a priority.
But you're not going to be satisfied unless it's pretty close to being a natural fence.
I mean, it's
That's why I said it should be optional.
Yeah, but you can't do that.
And if it was optional, the applicants will probably vet the cost of plantings versus.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they're gonna take the plants over the wall anyway. I think what we need to do, because one thing we have to accept is that once you build, an initial growth period, right? But if we are talking about preserving trees and bringing that to our humble area of Oak City extension. Secondly, I think what we need to do is increase the percentage around what we want our opaqueness to be. And what I would like to know is if 45 or 40% is realistic, but do we have to do that tonight? Can we vote this through tonight and then add the parameters? Or do we need to have all of that laid out tonight so we don't have to come back and kick this can again?
So you're adopting a new law tonight, so you got to have it all nailed down.
Let's push it and get some feedback from Michael on what would be possible and likely, a likely alternative that's more cost effective than a wall or a fence.
So we didn't workshop this issue.
No.
We didn't workshop this issue, Eric.
Come again?
I said this issue here, we didn't send it through the workshop process where we had a workshop on it.
The board has considered this in work session before, and
I mean, this is a voting meeting here, business meeting. But I thought we had said months ago that we was gonna send all text amendments through workshop, didn't?
Yeah, we did.
Ain't that what you remember?
I do.
Because that's what we're talking about now. We talking about workshop stuff. Well, all of them applicants just about.
I can vote for it.
So when it comes to work sessions, those are that are staff initiated amendments. This is an applicant initiated amendment.
We see what's happening.
So I think if we were to throw out a number, to me, honestly, that's just throwing out a number. I don't know what 40% is going to look like. I don't know what 50% is going to look like. So some expertise on this would be great.
so the board has options. The board can vote tonight. The board can continue this case until it has more information if it wants it. The board can vote no and instruct the staff to bring back an appropriate text amendment based upon what you learned on this case. There's no presumption that you will vote yes on an applicant's text change application, even if it does spark a great conversation that eventually leads to something that the applicant wanted.
And it sounds like we're in general agreement as far as, pulling out the fence or the wall aspect. But yes, creating a denser tree line, shrub line. So I guess the way to do that would be to vote to deny this, but with instructions to staff to workshop this and come up with something that would provide a more palatable density.
We can continue it. And that way they'll come back with more information. I think that would probably be the easiest thing for us into March 17th, which would be a work session. And that way we're accommodating all facets of what we need to do. Mayor, do you agree with that?
I agree with that.
So,
100%.
so if, not to speak for everyone, but to speak specifically for what I think we want to do in this scenario, I think we're going to motion this tonight to extend this to another date, March 17th, but with giving you the instruction, and this is where I look to you, Mr. O'Neill, is to give them the instruction to do what specifically do we need to say as part of this motion? To have town go give us more information with the opaqueness? Is that what we're calling this?
Density.
Density, opaqueness? Is that the verb?
Opacity.
Okay, opacity. Spell that for me.
O-P-A-C-I-T-Y.
Spell
You
it right.
have.
I did ask. Scrabble word. Okay, so I just want to know that's what we need to do if we need to give that instruction.
You have a tree board and Parks and Rec advisory board. I mean, there are resources to the Board of Commissioners.
Oh, and I will tell you that in our Parks and Rec board, they said that they are terribly impressed with the people on the tree board, that they really know what they're doing. So maybe maybe we need some expertise from them.
I'd like to make a motion to continue TA 2511-LDO text amendments to require perimeter buffers to a future town Board of Commissioners meeting of March the 17th of 2026. Is that okay?
I see we get a second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Is the staff clear on what the request is? Any other discussion from? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds like the ayes have, the ayes do have, the motion is approved. So, what'd you say, March?
17th.
March 17th, okay, got that. All right, thanks, Mike. Anything
you.
else? All right, that ends the public hearing then. Next item is communications. Is any communications from the town attorney?
Just very quickly, a question for the board, something that was mentioned to me during the recess, and this will be instruction back to the staff. There's an option for the board to take up your votes on legislative hearings in a one shot. You can vote approve because it's consistent and it's reasonable because second vote. You don't have to do 2 votes anymore. You used to, but you don't anymore. Does that sound like it might? I was thinking about how things went this evening. Might that work better, even though it sounds more complicated? Because I'm hearing board members thinking about the second part, right? And we could just do it all in one shot. And if that's the case, staff will bring it to you that way.
I don't have an issue with that, I don't think, because you got to have both of them anyway.
Right. We've always done it as 2 votes. The original thinking of the General Assembly, as I understand it, was everybody might vote yes, but they may not all agree as to why. And so you could go around and around on the second vote until you get 3. I just don't see that that has ever happened in my time here.
I agree.
So we might be able to streamline that a little bit. And I think it would flow if Commissioner Alston has already thought about the second. He can write a single sentence with a comma in between.
Okay. Yeah, the way the motion's been written recently, it's got consistency in the first one, I think.
Correct. Right. So we just put the why in the front part. Okay, we're going to give it a shot. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to the old way. Thank you.
Any other things, town attorney? No? How about town manager? Anything for town manager?
Just one quick thing. Several residents from the Barrington community have reached out with questions and concerns as to the change in their experience as far as living in close proximity to the future Wake Med campus. We've communicated that to Wake Med and their government affairs liaison, and they're going to be holding another community meeting with them. From that, they should be gaining more feedback, and they'll engage with us to see what the outcome is. We'll also respond back to those residents, see if there is a need for them to come in and present on it, or if they will have their questions answered within that community meeting. But I bring this up to you to let you know that we will be reporting back to you all on that at a future time once they have that community meeting, and we'll let you all know when the date of that meeting takes place. But just wanted to share that with you all, and also if they were to be watching, know that we have spoken with Wake Med and that they have agreed to. They very happy to. Now, we didn't have to convince them to have another community meeting, by the way, but to have that conversation with them.
And you'll let us know ahead of time when that.
Yes, I will. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Once we find out the date, I'll let you know.
So didn't they just have a meeting with them last week?
That's correct. They said they're going to have a second one for that. They had, leading up to that meeting that they just had, we have received communications from them. And so they're going to have a second one.
That's great.
Yes.
So did they land on the design, because really, if they put the design where I think they are with that street, it's going to be a big buffer between them and the hospital.
The concern was not necessarily around the design, but the type of medical facility it is and what comes along with it. And so it was about light, siren sound, light pollution. And so those are some general high level things that they feel like they can be able to, high level concerns they could be able to address with the community via a conversation.
Yeah, they want to put them on the other side of the building.
So
So like the emergency room, where the ambulances come in.
Well, I think from what I've gained from them that there are a lot of assumptions of what might come along with it that may not be accurate.
Okay.
Because if there is for example, an E1, E2 license siren, it would not come here. It will go
Down further.
to the larger hospital
Okay.
if there was a true trauma. So I think from what I've heard is that there's a misunderstanding as to how many license sirens it will be. But they are looking to answer those questions. I don't want myself to be a resource for that information. They'll be answering those questions directly with them. And if there's a need, we'll bring them in to present to you all as well.
So I'm sure Wake Med knows all about the hospitals, and I don't know who they're going to bring with them. But that meeting that we went to about the EMS and the changes that they were making,
That's correct.
would it be beneficial? Are they bringing EMS with them to answer those questions?
So EMS has agreed to come present separately
Perfect.
on how their call prioritization as will be shifting. They've agreed to do that. They gave you all confirmation on that, and they said they will be following up on us once they complete it.
And they're speaking with the Barrington people about how? That's
No,
my
the
question.
EMS will not be speaking with the Barrington people.
That's my concern.
That's separate.
So they can answer those questions, because I know a lot of people have emailed me about the sirens and all of that, the noise. So would that be beneficial for someone from EMS to be there to speak on?
So I think EMS is how they get to an incident is separate from how people get from the incident and where they go from the incident. It may be licensed sirens to an incident, which we all hear them all the time, but it might not necessarily translate to somebody having licensed sirens from the accident to that. But I do think there may be a miscommunication in which if someone has a severed limb, they're not going to go to a basic emergency room. They're going to go to a trauma center. And a trauma center is what you will see associated with a New Amsterdam, a Grey's Anatomy. Whereas I believe the emergency room they've been referring to is more like a very large urgent care.
Where they might have a little bit more capacity.
But the future state of what they may build. But again, I'm not trying to answer those questions for Wake Med. I'm just alluding to what has been provided to me as there may be a misconception on that, but I want that to take place within the community meeting.
That's great.
Yeah, and a lot of and you can look this up, a lot of the emergency room visitors are not what we think is emergencies. It's people that has nowhere else to go and they may have just common sickness, but they'll go to emergency rooms. That's what's filling up the emergency rooms. It's not really like EMS bringing somebody there. It's a lot of walk-in, a lot of foot traffic. And the waits, and if you look at the ones, if you wait med, maybe have them come out there and talk to us a little bit. Them emergency rooms are long waits, very long waits, because there's so many people that are coming in. And obviously they're not in death situations because they wait there all day sometimes.
Well, and that's where a lot of these health systems, it's why they have urgent cares now, because it's that immediate primary care need.
Yeah, see,
Versus running to an ER.
It's a difference in the definition. Urgent care, you got to have you got to pay or something. You got to have, emergency rooms. You get to service even if you can't afford it, and that's why a lot of people go to emergency rooms rather than urgent care, because urgent care you have to have a.
It's so much bigger than that. There's going to be doctors' offices there. There's going to be specialists there. It's not going to just be the emergency room. We're talking about life-saving and doctor visits that the senior community we're trying to build upon, that we continually talk about. We're now giving them medical facilities. We don't want to overthink this too much. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, but again, that's I think all those reasons why WakeMed looks forward to having more conversation with them and have expressed that they're open to coming to present and talk about those benefits as well.
Great.
That's my only communication.
What about any updates? When's the pavers going in? I keep getting asked that.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I didn't receive a written update on that for today, but I can communicate with y'all directly on that.
Yeah, I think they didn't start them, but I can see all this bad weather, they can't do it, sure, but I think here it is February and they hadn't started yet.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks it's just been ice and holiday.
Any other questions for the town manager?
Actually, there is one additional thing. The Leadership North Carolina Fellowship that I've been participating in on a monthly basis will be next week. I'll be in New Bern on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and the immersive learning experience this time is economic development, and so I'm looking forward to that. This past month was racial equity and its influence on government institution systems and systems, all the different systems that everyone works and relies on services from. This economic development emerging will be something that I'm highly looking forward to, and I've been told that I'll be able to take a lot from. And so that will be next week. So I'll be away from the office, but I won't be totally unreachable like this past month where we were walled off from. It was an experience that was very controlled. So I'll be accessible, but I will be in New Bern on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. If winter ever ends.
Would you say winter what?
If winter ever ends.
I think they're expecting some more.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait, tomorrow or?
Tomorrow.
yeah.
I'm supposed to fly out tomorrow.
Okay, any closing comments from the board? Anybody got anything?
Just move to adjourn.
You want to make a motion?
Yes, sir. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sounds like the ayes have it. Motion is, thank you.